just one sec, and this one you may quite like. This is TachyonRadio.com, and that was Avicii with Wake Me Up. I sort of kind of like Avicii, apart from the fact that it's one of those songs, or should I say, he's one of them artists that he'll do a song and then you know damn well what he's going to do because it's all so formulaic. He'll sort of sing something, you have to go, hey, and then he'll play like this little ditty of a keyboard bit. Anyway, that's beside the point.
To be honest, though, it's 4 minutes and 1 second longer and you were out of the room.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. And before that, we had Francis Minkman.
I was technical director of Tachyon Radio for about 4 minutes.
Anyway,
it's terrifying.
What I need to say is that we're actually joined now by Dave and Steve from Tameside Paranormal Researchers. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello there, how are you?
You know what, this is absolutely... yeah, let's do an Avicii of it. Hey.
We've just done a Mexican one, and it went really well.
Both of them. All two of them done a Mexican way.
It needs 4 people.
And how are you, chaps?
Not too bad.
Absolutely fantastic.
It really is a pleasure to have you both here tonight.
It's great to be here.
Long time, no see, but I tell you what, it's been emotional.
It has, it's been emotional. There were tears as we were on our way here.
No, you just sort of didn't pull the zip up right and you just sat funny.
It was true, that actually.
Yeah. So, let's give the... Do you want to give the... I was going to say pensioners then. Listeners.
That's what the OAPs are,
All on the same thing.
Just a bit of a rundown of what you do and why you do it and who you want to sort of say hey to.
No.
Okay then.
No, yeah, of course, yeah.
Right, well, thank you. It's Second Radio. Good night, God bless.
It's alright, can I just make it clear, this is not being recorded for Interpol, so we're fine.
We should be okay, we won't be investigated. Well, basically, we, had an interest in the paranormal for a long time, so the natural course of progression was to try and find answers for ourselves, so that's what we've done. I've been involved in various groups myself for many years. At Tameside Paranormal, was another, I wouldn't say string to the bow because that might be the wrong type of terminology, but another facet to being involved in the subject. And basically we just go to historical locations, residential properties and business properties to try and find out answers to one of the biggest questions. Why was Bermuda Triangle so popular by Barry Manilow?
No, I think that's more likely why should you be signed onto a mental ward?
Yeah, that's
because you bought the record in the first place.
If you bought that, then no amount of investigation.
You know what? Right, I'm going to you mentioned this, and it's going to take it so far away from paranormal investigation. But let me just say, Dave here many years ago was one of my prime investigators for my UFO investigation group, and he was a top guy then, I'm telling you. So I'm telling you, anybody's got anything to say, come and see me first. But that's beside the point.
Got to get through Steve.
Yeah, exactly. I am like the wall of steel.
He's the Batfink of radio.
Did he just actually say that?
He did,
yeah. It's not a good look, is it?
My mum, God bless her soul, she was a big Barry Manilow fan. When I was like 17 or 18, I was a big biker, and it was a birthday, and I said, Mum, what would you like for your birthday? And she said, ooh, I'd like that Barry Manilow album with that Copacabana on it. And I said, oh, for God's sake. So I finished work at the Evening News on Deansgate, and let's just say there's me with my biker's jacket on and a biker's helmet and a little denim jacket over the top of the biker thing, and going into HMV with a...
Which isn't an infectious disease, just in case people...
No.
The record.
Don't die of dyslexia.
Yeah.
And I went in and said, can I have this please? And the look this guy gave me, and I went, it's not for me.
He didn't believe you.
No.
They always say that, don't they?
He didn't believe it. The amount of people, it's like the record collector's version of a brown paper bag in the newsagents, isn't it?
I'm driving down bloody Rochdale Road, and obviously I couldn't stick it in my jacket because it was, next to my chest it had snapped, and it's this little plastic bag flapping away down the side of my wrist and all over it, thinking, I can imagine this flying off, and I want to pull over and somebody go, is this yours? Is this yours?
Barry Manilow.
But something you should say about that, about brown paper bags as well. We used to go many years ago to a comic shop on Peter Street near Deansgate, and it was in, shall we say, a shop of ill repute where they would sell slightly pornographic material. People would be coming out of that shop with porno mags, proudly displayed. If you bought comics, they put them in brown paper bags.
You know what, though? The alternative line, first line to that Barry Manilow song, I have it on good authority, was his name was Yarwood, he was a biker.
Yeah, that's true, that's true.
Apparently they pulled it from the record, I don't know why.
Oh, God, it's so strange and so awful.
Can I ask you, Dave, can I ask you a question? The properties that you guys investigate, do they tend, not universally, but mostly to be older properties?
No, it would be understandable for most people to think that that might be the case, but I think because you're in a realm where the actual ground where these properties are on might have activity for whatever reason
that sort of predates the actual building.
Predates the actual building itself. Even relatively new properties can be showing signs of what people would call paranormal. However you would like to label paranormal, you know. But no, age doesn't have any part in it.
It's just I lived in London for 5 years and I was aware that there were new buildings going on very old ground, and very often people didn't know what they'd been on the ground. They'd build over wasteland and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
There is a sort of spooky feel about a lot of the newer buildings in London just because of where they're built, I thought.
Yeah. And it's more than just a feng shui thing.
No.
I found that feng shui means more work.
Yeah. Feng Shui is a brilliant actor. Didn't you used to work with Raymond Chow, I believe, in the old days?
Yes, the big boss.
I thought feng shui was brilliant in the water margin. Remember? Yeah.
The thing is that he was watching. He was the bloke there, right? And he was little guy, small legs, long wee. Come on, long wee. Did you ever see what's it?
He never survived actually the transition over to Monkey.
Monkey!
Remember Monkey?
I do remember Monkey.
Did you ever see Kentucky Fried Movie when they did that mistake of Enter the Dragon in it?
I had to be very disciplined to sit through that movie, I've got to be honest. As a Bruce Lee fanatic, and I mean, with my wife being a big Bruce Lee fan.
Hey, I love Bruce Lee a bit.
I'm on air, you know, so I've got to say it.
But you've got to admit, some of the stuff in that was brilliant, what he said. And he is what is it, sort of like Han, and he is rough, what is it, tough and ruthless, and isn't his brother rough and toothless?
No, I'm a bit like me now, actually. Rough and toothless.
But I mean, that was just a piece of class, that, I mean, but... okay, you're a big Bruce Lee fan, right?
Yes.
And this is, again, still detracting from the paranormal, but shut up. David.
Yes.
May I ask you what you think of this thing about what they're saying at the moment about remaking?
Oh, no.
Enter the Dragon.
No. I think it would be as big a travesty, and I don't know how well this is going to go down, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think that would be as big a travesty as it was to remake The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
No, we don't talk about that.
You know, because that to me, that was a cardinal sin.
It was.
You know, really was. And I think remaking Enter the Dragon without our Bruce in,
it's not right, is it?
You just don't do it. I mean, what are they thinking?
What if they got Bruce Forsyth and you could say there was another Bruce?
And then they could remake it. Good game.
Have you noticed how you always know when Steve's lining a bad gag up, don't you? He telegraphs it like a bad pass, doesn't he? You know what I mean?
There you go. The radio. Over to you.
I know that you hold Bruce Lee in great esteem, but I'm going to throw Bruce Forsyth in there anyway.
I mean, another guy who
Sorry about that.
Oh God.
Oh dear. Nice to see you.
Whack.
Yeah. So where were we?
We was sort of skirting the bounds of decency.
That was the worst link I've ever heard to a serious subject.
I'm sorry, there's only so much you can do.
I'm the amateur. He told me tonight, turn my phone off. I turned my phone off. He's peeping away.
He's downstairs.
And he said, listen, the links have got to be slick. He buggered off to the loo and left me to it.
That's what he calls slick. Slick means leaving you alone.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was fine while I was here.
Do you not think that it's like team building? It's like, Nodge, I know you're capable of doing this. Do it.
Character building.
Yeah, he doesn't even know what I've been broadcasting.
He has no clue what you were saying, has he? The recording will tell.
The only thing he's allowed to know is that I was saying Steve Yarwood at the end of every sentence. So
if you enjoyed this, my name's Nodge. If not, it's Steve
Yarwood. Email all your complaints
for the purposes of the police, my name's Steve Yarwood.
That's been done before.
And no doubt he'll get done again.
Oh, it was a bit like me. Right, anyway, back to the serious stuff. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
we digressed, we giggled. Sorry.
I'm ready.
Well, go on then.
That's all I've got to say.
Oh, thank you. Good night.
He's armed and ready. It's like Michael Schenker.
Right. Okay. Right. So we have been putting out some of your talks.
Oh dear.
On. I know we've had many.
Nothing but complaints.
It's the only decent thing we've done.
Mrs. Smith from Croydon. No, seriously, we've had actually quite a bit of feedback.
Discussing at Tunbridge Wells was delighted.
Yes, I bet.
We have had some feedback from these the paranormal talks that we've done, and it has been quite positive that people are sort of saying this is what we want to listen to.
Okay.
We did sort of discuss things over the past couple of weeks, saying that you didn't want to be sort of just known predominantly as a paranormal group, that you were willing to discuss the things. So would you like to oof it out a bit?
I mean, it's anything and everything that's weird and wonderful I'm interested in. Now, whether I take people with me kicking and screaming down that avenue or not is just a byproduct of the journey that I'm making personally in whatever it is I'm doing. I kind of see myself as a fireball that's going to fizzle out in completely the wrong direction if I'm left on my own. So I do like the idea of taking people with me,
so they can fizzle out as well as you.
And then while I'm doing it,
Can I just say, Dave, I've been doing that to him for decades.
It's a wonderful, wonderful trip.
It's a real gift.
Come along, you're going to love it.
It's a trip of a lifetime.
It is, it's
How many
fantastic.
actual people have you got then involved in
It
the society?
sort of fluctuates between 6. Yeah, it does. It fluctuates between 6 and 10. Really.
So as soon as people get involved, presumably you're using them as researchers, you're training them up and...
Well, more importantly is the hands. More hands make light work, and when you're out on an investigation, it's not just about walking around a dark place with a torch. You've got to gather evidence using whatever instrumentation you can, even if it falls into the realms of pseudoscience, because there's no empirical evidence to suggest that any of it's capable of picking up any spiritual activity, let alone any kind of paranormal activity. But of course, because we have no kind of controlled study group when we're approaching these subjects, then these mechanical, electrical devices help us to gather the nearest thing possible to a scientific kind of outcome. Obviously we need people to use these devices when we're out in the field. However, they've got to know how to use these devices.
But of course, I use electronic devices in a professional context.
We'd rather not talk about that.
But
The batteries.
Yeah, we tend not to talk about some of the products that are available at the Tachyon Radio website. No, but I mean the thing.
Needless to say, when they get delivered, they're in the brown paper bag.
Exactly. Yeah, but the thing about any sort of surveillance device is that because it's only ever giving you an approximation of a measurement whether you're recording traffic or whether or not you're recording. So it's there as an aid rather than the actual investigation itself, isn't it?
Well, all of it makes the actual investigation. If you take any one piece of, for want of a better word, evidence, anything that you've got together and correlated it becomes the investigation and our evidence as a whole. You can't just go out with, I don't know, say, obviously there's a lot of store putting EMF meters. I'm sure everybody's heard of EMF meters. I'm not going to go into listing the different types because there's many out there. But fundamentally, they're just measuring changes in electromagnetic activity. Not necessarily representative of anything other than just a change in electromagnetic activity. However, obviously, high levels of random electromagnetic activity can affect brainwave patterns. So, for the person that experiences something when they're subjected to them high fields of EMF, they are having a very valid experience. And the paranormal, for the most part, obviously, is on a personal level. It's when a person or a witness experiences it.
It's funny, we were talking about, I've just been looking into near-death experiences. This is bit of an
It's Barry Marlowe again, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, the one thing I did say as a qualifier is that anybody watching daytime television, that doesn't count as near-death. That's just...
You just feel like you are.
That's just losing the will to live, isn't it? But, I mean, there are parallels there, because they're very personal experiences, aren't they?
Yes, yeah. And I think that's the massive part.
Rather than objective experiences of, say, like a fire or an asteroid landing or whatever it may be.
Yeah, but I have a friend who spent 2 hours with Alan Titchmarsh on a train, and he said that was the closest to being to death that he's ever been in.
NDE experience, if ever that, isn't it?
Well, thanks very much to Steve Yarwood for killing my idea about near-death experience.
No, don't be daft, good God.
Alan Titchmarsh is a near-death experience.
Susan Blackmore's new book, Alan Titchmarsh.
But I think subjectivity and objectivity are not mutually exclusive anyway when it comes to conducting an investigation.
One person's perception is not necessarily another's.
200 people witness a road traffic accident, and they can all give totally varying descriptions depending upon the point of view and where they were.
Every way you look at it, it's valid. It is valid because you may find that one person will pick up on something where another one hasn't, and it literally is a case of trawling through all the bits of it, like you said, evidence for what it is, just to see what other people can see. 'Cause like you say, a road traffic accident, someone may have seen one of the people slip off the curb where one might have seen them stepping off it. You've got to take everything into account.
Can I just say, for the record, I didn't push that person.
There's nothing to suggest that.
No.
The charges never stop. But one thing that's that does ring true when it comes to paranormal investigation is you can say, for instance, even on a research level, you may not have been to a location, and I'm talking about a historical location here, which is renowned for so-called paranormal activity in whatever way it is. You can even be going to the top of some hills where people have regularly claimed to have seen lights in the sky, or claimed to have seen UFOs, and anywhere what's renowned for any kind of activity whatsoever, and you can hear about it, you can read about it, and you can watch videos on YouTube about it at research level, but until you actually go out and you're in the field there, and this might sound like a cop-out,
no, it doesn't,
but when you actually go out and you're there and you're subject to the actual personal feelings and experiences, which brings the human element into it, which is what the paranormal's all about anyway. The bit that people don't understand is apart from the norm.
I mean, I did that for many years in regards to Warminster, with the thing and stuff like that, read loads of stuff on it, but like you say, until you actually go there and you go, wait a minute, I mean, Cradle Hill, whether it's because of what you've read or what you've took in from it, you go there and you have that intense feeling straight away anyway. So whether it is a feeling of expectation or that something's going to happen, that you're geared up and your adrenaline's going, but it's like you say, you go there, it's different than being out in the field.
There are places that just have an inherent atmosphere about them, aren't there? Wherever you go, it doesn't have to be areas of outstanding natural beauty, does it? It's just certain spaces just carry with them an inherent fingerprint, don't they?
Yeah, which sort of lends a bit of weight to the Earth Mother Gaia principle and the universal conscience theory.
I'm a great admirer of James Lovelock, the Earth scientist, who says that the planet is actually a whole Earth system. The whole Earth is a single organism anyway, so it's all interconnected, live and dead.
Yeah, it's a funny game, really. I mean, I call it a game because you're searching and constantly chasing lots of different possible answers to questions, and it presents more questions the further in that you go. Yeah, you end up with more questions than you do answers.
Do you guys then find yourselves going back on old cases and revisiting them and with a new perspective?
Yeah.
You tend to find you perhaps approach it with a new piece of evidence or a new witness or a new sort of viewpoint or a new piece of technology?
Yeah, it just depends really. It depends what experience you've had on the night. There's certain experiences what you have. If you're going back, then you're trying to debunk to see if you get that experience again, kind of thing.
So sometimes about replicating what you've sort of witnessed on the...
Yeah, absolutely, and deliberately trying to force the issue to make the same things come about.
Well, that's almost like a scientific experiment, isn't it? Where what you're trying to do is replicate that's the nearest you get to control condition.
That's the nearest thing you get, and it's I think if you don't make an effort to debunk it, I see lots of things right now. There's lots of different... I hate to use the word evidence, but evidence that's put out there and portrayed as being valid proof of paranormal activity, and it's a complete belief system. The people that are doing it are just completely swayed by the fact it's definitely a spirit, it's definitely a ghost.
They've got baggage before they've actually started to look at it.
It's lugging them down like a giant boat anchor.
You guys presumably would say you approach this objectively and you will try and look at it as dispassionately and as accurately as you can do.
I think we try to remain grey, if you like, the grey man. I think you don't do yourself any favours, and you don't do the subject any favours if you go in, as you say, carrying baggage,
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
You can't just go in there and say it's a spirit straight away without you finding out yourself.
That's the other thing I was going to say. Presumably you guys find yourselves in very delicate situations that could easily be upset. Because you're dealing with things that are...
Do you mean on a personal level, or as a witness?
I was thinking in terms of, well, not just the witnesses, but in terms of the actual atmosphere of the places that you go into. Presumably it's a very delicate setup that could easily be disturbed.
I think even the atmosphere that you walk into can be tainted by your opinion and approach when you go in there. So therefore, I'll give an example which people might be able to relate to. Is if you go into a location that has alleged activity and you do any kind of shout out, you do any kind of call to try and provoke a response, then you're already changing the natural parameters of the very thing you've gone to investigate. You know, you to do it really, you would go in there, set up a load of devices, and then walk out of there and leave everything to do it itself. Of course, you remove the human element then because you're not there to witness it. But as soon as you do go in there and you're doing your shouts out with a good old-fashioned chestnut "is anybody there" kind of approach, then you're changing the parameters. Of course you are, because if there was spirit activity in the location that you're at, it would be there whether you're there or not. You know, it's a bit like going into an empty room and trying to cause a fight. Yeah. You know, changing it. Yeah, he's
really good at it.
And I'm very proud of knowing him for that fact, I've got to be honest.
I once saw him start a fight in a nunnery that didn't stop for a week.
Twice. Non-stop.
So in a way, the Heisenberg principle applies. The more you try to actually affect the outcome of an investigation, the more you could actually potentially ruin it. So you try to take a sort of light
the more you're
light touch sort of approach,
the more you're investigating yourself.
Yeah.
Because then the answers that you sort of reaping are a direct result and response from your actions, not necessarily the actions of the environment and the witnesses. If in a residential, the people that have to live there and have to deal with what's going on are totally paramount. Their safety, their well-being is paramount beyond anything else. And to go in there and stir up an hornet's nest, you know, it's not like on TV.
No.
You know, paranormal investigation is like warfare. You know, 95% nothing and 5% complete pandemonium when it does happen. And you know, I'm quite happy with it being that. It's a delicate balance, as you say. You don't want to go in and stir things up.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to get a response, because people want answers, and reassurance more often than that they're not going mad and that they're not on their own and people are willing to listen to them. So sometimes you might have to provoke some kind of a response.
Just to try and bring some evidence forward.
Just so that it validates the reason that you're there in their eyes, let alone your own, you know.
So what tends to be the overwhelming emotion then of the people that are contacting you? Is it fear? Is it interest? Does it mix?
It's a mixture really, from fear all the way down the line.
Frustration, anger, terror, confusion.
The whole emotional spectrum.
It can be very, very mad. One of the biggest, for me on a personal level, hasn't actually been with Tameside Paranormal. It was when I was doing work with Steve, actually, which was a case in the 90s. I'm going to throw this into the mix. You didn't expect this one.
No, I didn't.
It was in the
criminal records will ensue.
Criminal records. There were libel cases all over the place.
Yeah, it was.
We'll see how we get on.
In the world.
It was a phone call like that, about 1 o'clock in the morning, from a lady with young children, and they'd moved over from. He'd worked away in the Middle East. There we go. And he'd worked in the Middle East, and they'd come back over, and there was near my neck of the woods. Obviously, I'm not going to give names, and
no,
because I don't know any. No, I'm not going to give names. I've forgotten who you are already. It's not true.
Second name was best.
Second name. I'll give the address and everything. You can go around and find out if it's true. And the phone call disturbed me.
You don't mind being rung at that time in the morning?
No way. No. Not if it's about this.
Yeah.
If it's about, you know, have you had an accident? Or it's a claim for insurance. Or can we speak to the person responsible for the gas and electric in the house? And she said, you know, we're having activity at the house. There's things going on. My children have seen figures in the room that and white blinding white lights within the room, and they've come under the door. And me and my husband have heard the screaming of the children, and we've tried to get into the bedroom, and we couldn't get into the bedroom.
What?
We couldn't move the door at all, and we could hear them screaming on the other side. And then everything seemed to slow down. Time seemed to slow down, and then we remembered nothing. Remember, like, waking up and we're outside the door, and the door's open, all the white lights gone and everything, and the kids are in the bedroom and they've all got nosebleeds. You know, they've had a really serious, some kind of, you know, so I'm going, okay. And you believe me, don't you? I'm going, of course, I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to listen to what you've got to say and try to help. So, you know, yes, of course I believe you. She started to cry when I said that. And obviously then I realised it was really important to her. Yeah. And then she said, I don't know if you've got kids. At the time I didn't. She said, but as a parent, one of the things you like to be able to do as a parent is to be able to put your kids to bed and say everything's going to be alright. And I can't do that. You know? And I really felt that, you know, when she said that. It was like, oh my, you know, it's not a joke, this. You know, to the people that are living it, it's very real, you know. So it's that on a personal level for me had a massive impact on wanting to keep doing it. About 1994ish, something.
I remember doing that because we had to rewrite.
That was Steve. Not Yarwood, Matt.
We had to rewrite a load of protocols in regards to that for working with children and stuff, because it was the first time we'd actually came up against a case where children were involved. And I think did we go around a couple of times? And they really were a very nice family indeed.
So what happened? What was the outcome of the investigation?
The outcome of the investigation was they'd already contacted another group. They'd been in contact with Quest International. And they'd worked with other people. I think they'd even been in contact with BU4. They'd done the full round, you know, and they'd been in contact with Birdsall's and Tony, a famous ex-policeman.
We can't mention no names.
But a famous ex-policeman. I can't, you know. And he'd taken a lot of evidence that they'd accumulated and diaries, because they kept a diary of all the events, and he'd taken this and put it in a book long before he'd done any kind of investigation. And that sort of made it difficult for us. And I think the fact that we turned up and listened to what the woman had to say, the husband was a little less accommodating, it seemed to me, on a personal level. But she was great.
Yeah, but blokes like to be in control, don't they? If it's something that's out of your control, it's frightening, isn't it?
Yeah, and the thing is he had no control over himself.
No protectivity, was it? So
nothing whatsoever. I mean, you know, he went up for a shave one day, Dave, and you know, we were gone for hours, and then he come back down with a nosebleed, and he said, "What's up with you?" You know, that kind of thing. And I'm going, okay. And she said, well, you know, I said to him, you've been gone for hours, where have you been? I've just been upstairs for a shave, been in the bathroom. Well, it's been 5 minutes.
So these guys
that kind of thing.
Yeah, losing time.
So they're losing the concept of time as well, which is, again, another similarity between a lot of the ufology stuff that you see.
But before they'd actually experiencing the stuff over here, they'd been experiencing a lot when they were abroad as well.
This wasn't then necessarily connected to the location.
No, it was to the people,
You can bring in all sorts of things if it's connected to the location, like I said before, you know, feelings of nausea and everything can be low frequency, low frequency vibration in the floor.
That's fascinating.
High EMF fields can cause them to have like sense of the Oz factor, if you like, the Oz factor.
So in your opinion then, guys, what was going on?
In my opinion, I think that what was going on with them was that they were convinced that they were having visitation by extraterrestrials.
My argument was around that time as well. It's the X-Files was quite prevalent on TV.
Yeah, I'm glad you've just said that.
And people really did buy into it. The amount of UFO sightings and abduction experiences.
Clearly, the physiological things, like the nosebleeds, were real. So something real was happening to them, wasn't there?
But I mean, that can be brought about. Sorry, Steve. That can be brought about. Headaches, migraines, and not sleeping, and stress.
The interesting thing is, though, I mean, we've got the X-Files coming back on TV shortly.
You watch how many reports?
It's just going to go sky high again. I mean, how many did we used to get?
Well, I do want to say this, right, Steve. I'm sure you'll agree with me on this. we sort of had a system where we would have like a point system, and it would be to ascertain which would be the most important case to go for first. Yeah, so not so much is it prioritising which was the first one worth going out to, because you've got a limited amount of time,
almost like a risk register.
And making a decision on who should go first will be down to a points kind of system. And we would interview people, for want of a better word, get witness testimony, and if you can think of a single occurrence that's happened on TV regarding the paranormal or ufology, every single one was there.
Yeah.
And that always raises and rings alarm bells with me. If you go to a witness and or somebody who's claiming to have paranormal activity, whether it be spiritual, ghost, or whatever, or in a extraterrestrial ufology kind of sense, anything you want, if they can tick every box, the person that abducted them looked like the Borg Queen, they were taken away on a Romulan warbird by Chewbacca, who was being haunted. And then you think, okay, so this ticks everything. If you can score 50 out of the wackadoodle scale, and this is scoring 62, it's blowing the mercury right out the top of the doodah, then you've got to take it with a pinch of salt. But as a paranormal investigator or a ufology researcher, you can't just poo-poo it.
That's the whole thing, though, because it is paranormal. It's outside of normal.
You've got to do it.
So sometimes something like that, you think, bloody hell, this is ridiculous, but it could be getting so far in the realms of ridiculousness that it's believable.
It's brilliant.
Yeah. So there's a book in it.
Coming back to this original investigation, then, what happened to the family?
The family moved on.
Yeah.
And it sort of broke contact with us, and I think it wasn't down to what me and Steve done. I think the entire rigmarole of being dragged backwards through the hedges by multiple UFO research groups, by multiple UFO organisations, paranormal organisations, just took its toll, and they were forever moving around. Anyway,
because of the jobs, wasn't it?
Exactly, because
which
of the
can
jobs.
unsettle, particularly
the beauty of it was, though, because they did say to us that out of all the groups that they dealt with, that we were the ones that weren't being pushy. We were always at the end of the phone when they needed us. We weren't like phoning up, say, what's going on? Is anything else happened? We didn't do that. We waited for them to contact us and say, well, what's happening? And then they tell us. We'd never go out on a limb and just phone them up out of nothing. So what's happened today?
But it strikes me that what you were trying to do was actually, rather than sort of make headlines, you were actually trying to help the family.
Exactly.
And you were being stymied because other people were actually just trying to...
Stymied's a good word, actually, because, again, I can't mention names here, because I've got a lot of...
It's alright, he's told me the names of
You're off, that's it. Your cards are all marked. I've got I know a lot of people that are obviously in the game, and while their approach might be different than mine, I can't say that theirs is wrong, just like I can't say the way that I approach it, the way that TPR approaches it, or the way that I pre-approached it when me and Steve were working together is right. But I think the mentality in your approach on a personal level to the people you're dealing with can be right.
Yeah, that was the difference I always found. We were very empathic with people, and we tried to reach them on the level that they needed to be reached at the time, that if they did require time in between, like a contact, like we know from stuff that we've done, that people were getting calls every day off of the group, so what's happening, we wouldn't do that. It'd be a case of, if you need us, you've got the number.
I do know that we had a lot of forms, there was officialdom to what we done. We didn't just wing it. There was an element of that, but we didn't just wing it. There was officialdom. We had a set routine.
Well, I've worked with officialdom, and I can tell you that just because there's an official form doesn't mean they're not winging it.
I've still got a lot of forms in there.
To be honest.
But I mean, in the eyes of the people that you're doing it to, they're like it, they think, oh, well, he's got lots of paper, he knows what he's doing.
You had to tick the boxes, especially like you were saying before, because it was the first time we worked with children. We had to make sure that it was a case of, the parents were happy with what we were doing, that we got their permission to actually speak to them. They were present in the time when we spoke to them.
What you were telling everybody was that it was a shared experience. It wasn't just the children hallucinating because they'd seen a scary programme. All the parents.
We again would interview and talk to the children while the parents were there Like I say, there was protocols that were brought in as a result of that, as Steve said earlier, because I do teach in the amateur radio community as well. I'm a tutor for the RSGB, and you have to be CRB checked. And when you're tutoring vulnerable adults or
we work for the amateur, so I suspect we're all CRB checked.
There you go. And
it's also easy to lead children, isn't it? It's easy to lead children into a story that they don't necessarily want to tell you.
And in another way, they're not as tainted by nurture and society as adults. So sometimes innocence can be
truth.
Pure.
Children are honest in the main, aren't they?
But I do think an element of the human element is a massive side of it, and being true to yourself and the people that you're trying to find answers for is massively important. And YouTube and the internet is absolutely full of people that want to make a name for themselves. They want to be the next Zach Bagans.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? They're trying to be media stars rather than actually be investigators.
Yeah, and they're not as good looking as me, so it's going to happen.
My argument years ago, and it still is to this day, that I always saw ufology and paranormal investigations like being a big cake.
Yeah.
And it was always a case of we was going to get the biggest slice, and then when you were left with the crumbs, people would literally fight over it. We saw it in cases, say, in regards of the so-called crashed UFO case up at the reservoir.
Oh my
the amount of stuff that was dug up on that then became personal. People were digging up people's records for council tax to see if they paid or not, to see if they were an honest person.
No, it's true.
It's ridiculous just to bring people's names into disrepute.
The thing is, though, it's the nature of obsession. Is that Steve and I see this in science fiction circles, whereby people become so obsessive about the programme or the film or the genre that they're interested in that it gets personal. And you're thinking, actually, it's supposed to be something that you share. Not
I don't know if you remember that piece that I wrote, Who Watches the Watchmen? Where it literally did sort of say about all these people who were slagging everybody off. It was ridiculous, and all it was because people wanted, at the time, it was like, oh, well, I can get a book out of this, I can get a piece in a UFO magazine. We were quite happy to go out and do investigations, do our little bit, put it away and file it away. Where everybody else, they had to do it, and they had to be a book thing or go out on television or something like that. We weren't bothered with it.
What I do enjoy is,
I'm right, I can tell by his face,
is watching people try to become famous, and I'm quite happy to remain unknown. Getting the experience that I've got and the knowledge, for whatever that's worth.
But I suspect you guys are doing it for the right reasons, whereas the people you're describing to me want to be stars in their own right, rather than somebody actually goes out and investigates the thing for real.
There's a lot of that goes on. And like I say, there's a lot of them.
No, you don't need to know names. I can tell.
We don't have to. We can just giggle.
No.
There's a lot of them there. There's a current thing going on at the minute where I get one or two inboxes from people. Because I do say what I think. I'm guilty of that for sure. And while I'm happy for people to maybe watch whatever bits and bats of videos we put up on YouTube, I don't consider any of that to be definitive evidence. I think that catalogues visits we have to locations where there's supposed to be paranormal activity, and there is elements contained within the videos where we can't explain what has gone on. And it's not about the name, my name personally. I can only speak for myself, but I'm sure the rest of the team would agree with this. It is about getting the name known. It might be good for TPR to get known so that we can get more cases, to provide a service, not to appear on TV, not to get any kind of deals, not to be the next anything, because it loses the very essence of what it is.
Trying to get at the truth.
Yeah. So
when we ran a pre, that was aerial phenomena, research and information exchange, and that at the end of it was what it was all about. Information that we got, we would freely exchange between other groups. What we often found was, though, that when we tried to get information coming back our way,
it wasn't vice versa.
No.
You've made a really good point there, because there was a particular case where there'd been a UFO sighting in the Tameside area over Hyde. There'd been a few people had seen a silver streak fly across the sky, and it had got through to, I can't say the name.
No.
It sort of almost comes out. I forget the microphones are there. But I can't say the name. But
Names have been changed to protect the innocent, or not?
It was a representative from a bigger organisation at the time, and he put an advert in the newspaper to try and get witnesses to come forward. He didn't have any, but we did.
Yeah,
we had him. So of course I went talking to him, because up that neck of the woods is obviously closer to me than what it was for Steve at the time. Sure. Of course I would get whatever and then come back to Steve, and he'd be privy to it obviously, and then if it was, we wouldn't just divulge this information haphazardly to all and sundry unless the case was considered closed, or even if it was ongoing, we had the permission of the people that we were interviewing at the case for.
Never gave forward people's names or details like that. It was only like the specific site, whatever what it was.
And it'd say, yes, I'd be really, really, really thankful if you could give me any information regarding this case. And he sort of specialised in not cattle mutilation. It was mainly foxes it was happening to, actually, at the time.
Yeah, that was up at wasn't it? Bolton Way.
There's nothing wrong with this lad's memory.
I can remember doing the protocols for the cattle mutilation as well.
There you go, you say. Linda Moulton howling.
Linda Mouldy move.
Linda Mouldy. And, I said, well, the bits and bats that we've got, there's conducted a bit of a preliminary and spoke to the witnesses and ticked all the boxes that are relevant to ascertain the level of importance, and because sometimes there's personal questions that might be on the questionnaire because it affects the validity of a witness testimony. Whether it would be prescription drugs or how often they drink or whatever, and it might seem like of course, and it might look like you're judging somebody, and we're not in a position to judge somebody, but to give them the correct answer or the correct kind of help, then we need to know where they're at, so we've got their back, kind of thing. And I said, I've got no problem with sending you this stuff so you can see it and you can see where we're up to, and please feel free to give us what information you've got.
Yeah, right.
So I sent off this brown paper package with a comic in it and a Barry Manilow CD
and a couple of batteries for later on.
I sent off this package to this gentleman, and I got a phone call not long afterwards, and he said, I'm really grateful for that. In fact, you've got certain characteristics that are really great, and we don't use them, and we perhaps should, in the paperwork and the questionnaires and the way that we're going about doing it. Now, this is a lot bigger group than us. We
were professional.
We were pro, baby. We used to hang around under the arch. No, we're kind of that pro. And he said, OK, I'm going to give you my witnesses. So of course I'm dead happy, because I want to go back to Steve, and I want to say, here we go, mate, there's a couple more here, and on top of the guys we've got, we're the prime investigators for this particular case, and it's a good one. And he gave me the names of the people I'd sent him back over the phone. He gave me the names. Even I was included in it. I was a witness by the time we were reading them out.
Which is a bit of a giveaway.
So he
I don't remember speaking to you.
He got all this paperwork, and then this organisation had this excellent framework for preliminary investigative procedures.
You shared and this guy didn't.
It looks that way, yeah.
So it didn't reciprocate your goodwill.
We'll go with that, because that was polite.
I was trying to be polite.
He was trying to be polite.
I mean, we literally, if we came up against something, we'd try and have a look and say, right, well, if we investigate it this way, what we need to be able to do is say, right, we're going to go about it in this way, but, and then that's when the paperwork would come on. We need to make sure that we can do this, we can do that we need to know this, that we need to know that, so that there was no way that once we'd done this, that people could say, but you've done this, we've done that, but we've got permission for it, but you've done that, but that's the correct way of doing it. We would have so much, and it really was at first, the amount of stuff that you would have to tick off, but it was to, one, to cover your back, two, to make sure that the witness themselves was protected, and also to make sure that there was a decent working relationship between yourself and the witness. Another set of paperwork what we had written up was for that, where we would put the information out to people, which, like I say, we would freely do, as long as it didn't sort of like have the people's names plastered all over the place. We didn't give like phone numbers or anything like that. If it was a case of people needed to know anything, then they would come to us and we'd supply the information that we already had, but we would freely give that out. When it came to the other side of it, it was like, no, ain't happening. But like you said, the paperwork that we did, people were taking it on board and going, why have we not thought of that? Why haven't we done it? And I can honestly state now that when I look online and look at people's like protocols and stuff like that, I can work back at the stuff that we actually did many years ago, and it's been like took off with.
Looking at this objectively, then, this perhaps explains to somebody who perhaps reads about it in the media why certain cases and certain events are reported differently, because obviously people are trying to hold their own version of stories to themselves. Yeah.
I mean, there's a big case for the Ilkley Moor alien, and that was initially investigated by a gentleman that I used to do work with years ago, good old Arthur, and he basically had that investigation taken off him. I'm not giving again no names, but by, should we say, 2 other investigators who were more well known, who had books out and stuff, and poor Arthur was stuck to one side, but he initially took the investigation.
He was the
initial one for it all. He spoke to the guy, he got it all set up, he even got the, although I don't particularly agree with it, but the hypnosis side of it, he actually got all that organised. But once again, it was a case of like, sorry, but we're more well known, and it was took off him. And it's a shame because Arthur, you know, he
well, it doesn't make people better investigators, does it? No. It's the same in any profession, in any walk of life. Being better known doesn't necessarily mean you're better, does it?
No, I mean, it does. You are in a better position to deliver the information. However, unfortunately, if you're famous and you've gleaned your information from ill gains, then the information you're giving out is wrong.
But that was one thing we always used to do. If we ever did get any information from anybody, it was always mentioned, whether it be in the paperwork that we would file, whether we were doing stuff into a magazine or anything like that. People got in touch with us, then it would be put forward and sent out. People would always get a credit for it. And a good friend of ours, Dave Sadler, used to work on over there in Macclesfield, Merseyside, that way. Whenever we used to do stuff with him, he would always credit us, and the same for us, we would credit their stuff as well.
Do you know that thing's got the output of Sellafield?
That's not me. That's not me.
I don't have any friends. So it can't be. This entire room contains everybody I've ever speak to. So it's,
but the sad thing is, because of everything like we've sort of gone on over there, that's one of the reasons why I no longer do stuff like that. I don't mind consulting with people like Dave Sadler used to sort of get in touch and say, Steve, you know, we've got this going on, can I have your input from it? I don't mind that. Same with you. If you ever needed to do anything, I'd do it. But because of all the crap that's gone on,
it's a trust-based network.
I think in all fairness, Steve, and I would say this regardless of where I was, whether you go out in the field and do it anymore or not, in a way is an irrelevance to me, because your legacy sort of lives on in my approach. You know, and I'm not just saying that lightly, I really mean that. And I think when we were talking about the different approaches towards gathering initial witness testimony and doing prelims, a lot of that hard work and groundwork was done by Steve, and it's been copied and emulated and simulated poorly by a lot of people since. And I think going through that process, and in whatever small way being a part of that process, has helped my attitude towards how I conduct paranormal investigations now. So whether you know Steve goes out in the field or not, it doesn't change the knowledge that's there. And the knock-on effect that it's had 15, 20 years later with other people. I pass that same kind of thing on to people that want to learn paranormal investigations and don't get charged for a certificate. That means nothing either. We pass this information on freely because that's what it's about. Somebody passed it on freely to me.
What you're describing is the evolution of the methodology then?
Absolutely, of course, yeah.
So, I mean, you guys are clearly very hard-headed researchers, so you're not likely to be disturbed by things, but are there sort of cases or places that you've been that have left you disturbed and left you wondering about the nature of life? And
I was wondering when this one had come.
It had to come out.
Steve, you take this one?
Been to quite a few.
So it's not an unknown thing. So it's not just one instance. There are various places you've been that have sort of disturbed you, or they've left you asking yourself questions, even though you've got the experience.
We could happily talk about, without giving names, but we could happily talk about individual investigations where things have gone on that have been very strange as far as we're concerned. All night, we'll fire them at you as long as you want. That's not going to be a problem, because there has been so many of them. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm coughing up my head.
Can we just point out at this time, this is not an editorial comment, but it's Steve's dog.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
I'll tell you what, before we get back to that, we'll have a small break for a couple of minutes, alright? This is very apt, I think, for the moment. This was the first white guy signed by the Motown label. This is Dean Taylor here on TachyonRadio.com, and there's a ghost in my house. Here on TachyonRadio.com, and like I say, we are joined tonight. I'm joined with my good friends, Mr. Nigel Rudyard, and Dave and Steve from Tameside Paranormal Researchers.
Hello.
And before we go any further, just one sec. Yep, that's the theme music for him. Quick burst of that.
That's all you guys are worth, 4 bass notes. So you're not going to take an issue.
Give me a break, come on.
There we go. Hey.
So,
A little bit of plugging.
who's got a plug?
3-pin.
Okay, we'll go for that. Right, okay.
Yes.
Now, you said the other day you wanted to talk about specific investigations. Do you want to give us a quick on that?
I think there's a particular location we've had a lot of activity from of late, which is close to our hearts, because of, like I've said previously, it's presenting more questions than it is answers, and so we go back to find answers to the new questions, and it just isn't happening.
Yeah.
However, it still fuels the desire to want to go out and do things, and it's a go-to place to continue the funk, baby. You know,
Funk,
when there's not a lot happening, when there's not a lot coming in, which is it's not that often, actually. We do okay, don't we? We've got to
You
be
turn up
honest.
with like a big sort of like Huggy Bear hat and stuff
You know
like
it, yeah?
that. Yeah.
Purple flares,
Yeah.
you know, cravats.
Yeah.
that
Don't
kind of
care.
thing. You know it.
What's the word on the street?
You know it. Shaft, baby. and,
And we have been many a time.
many shafted in the paranormal community.
Now there is a good bass line.
There is a good bass line. You'll probably play more notes of that than they did our intro, no doubt.
Yeah.
The 3-pin plug. I didn't call it quits now, listeners, is that enough? And it's a very strange location because of the very disparate type of activity that might happen, and it can be completely quiet, like you wouldn't think anything were going on, and then you can go back another time and it's absolute madness.
Yeah.
And at one stage we thought it might be seasonal, you know, which would subscribe in a way to the fact that the Earth's or the environment and the geomagnetic field in the environment and the mineral deposits that are under the ground might be playing a part to a lot of the phenomena that were going on.
Yeah.
However, that theory blown out of the water, and we started to go different times of the year and weird stuff would happen anyway. So.
Blew that one out of the water.
And it's and one of the more common ones would be the you see, I hate having to say this because as an investigator you try and distance yourself from it, and of course when you're out in the field and you have something happen to you, you're not really an investigator anymore. You're a witness, aren't you?
Yeah.
And you're a witness, really. Somebody else should investigate you.
Yeah.
But of course it doesn't do that.
Become part of it.
You become a part of it yourself, yeah. And it would be a shadow person, for want of a better terminology, a dark figure that gets seen in pretty much the same location within the location
Regularly.
on a regular basis. And when we sort of kicked in this well, we didn't tell people when they were new to the location. It became a matter of course. We wouldn't tell people about this, so there would be no auto-suggestion of an experience before it happened, because you've got to be careful of that.
Preconditioning people.
Of course you are, yeah. And we wouldn't say where it occurred. We wouldn't say what happened. We'd say nothing, and we wouldn't have blindly lead them into the location. We would say there's been activity, and a certain amount of research would have been done by them anyway, so they know that they're not walking in to a complete blind location. If they're worth the salt, they'll have done a little bit. And it seems that no matter who we took, or no matter who came along as part of the team, they would have an experience of this exact location, and seeing and describing pretty much exactly the same thing, you know. And we've not been able to explain what that might be, and you know, believe me, we've tried, but we've not been able to explain what that might be. It's very reoccurring,
So the witnesses or the people that it's happened to have all come to this independently. They've not been part of a group, and they've all witnessed very similar things.
Yeah.
Which corroborates for you guys, I guess, quite nicely.
Yeah. I mean, we're more than happy for people to go there and experience it themselves, because it obviously validates personal experience. I don't know. I mean, maybe you want to talk about your own.
This particular location that he's on about at the moment, we've been there many times. There's been lots and lots of things happen. Lots very, very unexplainable. One particular time, I think you remember it, Dave, we were sat on a bench.
Yeah, the entrance to the location is this?
No, the...
Oh, right, okay,
near the chapel, and we were just sat there. We were having a brew, I think we was, weren't we?
Yeah, we like
just having a
bit of downtime.
Right? And all of a sudden, this kind of big stone at the wall, big sound, wasn't it? Massive.
Yeah, it was very loud.
And we went looking to see what exactly it was, and I think we got it on video on the stone.
We certainly got the sound of it hitting, which reverberated around the location, and startled or not, the first thing you do is jump up and go looking for whatever might be responsible for it, because obviously there's, if it's not paranormal and it's some nugget who's playing silly games and throwing stones, you want to know about it so you can eradicate it from there. Yes, absolutely. So we jumped up and had a look around and could find no reason for why that happened. And that's happened on more than one occasion, hasn't it?
Yeah.
To several different people.
It's not just happened at the...
So is that almost like what you would call a sort of poltergeist type thing, where a physical manifestation of a...
To me, I mean, obviously the word poltergeist means noisy spirit, right? Noisy ghost, yeah, and it's bandied about very easily and too freely. Because there can be all sorts, dimensional time shift, and whatever theory you might subscribe to as to why physical objects are manifesting in a location where they shouldn't for whatever reason. And all we know is that it happened, and there's not many birds in the UK. There is one or two that will drop stones and carry stones. At 2 o'clock in the morning, they tend to be roosting, and they're not carrying house bricks around, unless it's like a golden eagle or a really, really like nocturnal pterodactyl or something.
Or a scouse pigeon.
Or a scouse pigeon, and there weren't too many of them knocking about.
So you guys kind of reverse engineer it. It's happened. Let's try and find out why.
Yeah, you've got to debunk it, haven't you? If you can explain anything that happens in prosaic terms, then that's what it is. It's not paranormal. It's something normal, or within the realms of normal.
Extraordinary.
So that's always...
That's the same night, though. That was the same particular night. We were sat near the gates, on the benches near the gates, and we was getting stones at the zone, weren't we? Small stones from that zone.
Yeah.
Before we actually went up to the chapel side, and that's when the big one come in, the big sound. Made us jump.
We've gone to the extent of using motion sensors on the approaches to the location. So there's 2 ways in, and for the part where we were at, where this particular experience happened, there's one way in. You've got to get past us to get there. However, we would still deploy guardians, as some people might know. They do motion sensors, basically PIR motion sensors. Some of them audible, some of them just emit a light. Anyway, if anything goes past them,
they go off.
Yeah, and we'll know if somebody's messing about and coming to the location, and they've happily stayed silent, So it's that was a strange one. And coupled with the shadow figure that gets seen in the location nearby.
Is that a regular event then? That this figure's been seen more than once?
It's been seen more than once, yeah.
I would say it's been seen by 75% of the team.
That's interesting. So you've all sort of independently corroborated whatever it is.
And the thing is it's acted similar but different. And then, if you sort of have any kind of subscription to the stone tape theory, then it should just play out a sequence of events. However, there seems to be, or it would appear that there seems to be a level of interaction and sentience about the way...
Well, I was going to ask you about that, whether or not there was any sort of intelligent response to your present, or whether or not it was just like something playing from a film. But from what you're saying, there's a level of interaction that goes on.
There seems to be, from darting between the trees to actually running at people or approaching to seeming rather to approach people. It does what it wants.
It's not just one particular area though, is it, when it actually happens? We've been in the gardens and took some filming, and unexplainable. They're better off looking at the video themselves and judging for themselves what actually happened then.
Okay, there is one or two videos on YouTube that show one or two of the anomalies that we've caught. It's difficult getting everything that you experience on video camera, because it'd be so easy, wouldn't it? We wouldn't be here having this discussion because everybody would know about it. The evidence would be out there because everybody would have it on camera already.
Well, I'm a photographer. I mean, you should be a technical photographer. It's very hard getting things that are sat right in front of you still properly recorded on any kind of digital film. So particularly with moving things where you're dealing with 3 dimensions, you've got focus, if you've got low light you've got artifacts caused by the light itself. So unless
the CMOS not being able to resolve the image.
No, it won't be able to do, because digital technology, unfortunately, digital imaging technology has its limits, and they're quite profound limits.
They are, and that rears its ugly head in the world of the paranormal more than it should. Absolutely. I mean, it's responsible for so much pareidolia that it's untrue. The internet is rife. It's a plethora of images people have put forward. That's a result of a really bad CMOS sensor in a digital SLR camera, and
same on the audio side of it though as well.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Well, in fact, you're dealing with the same analogous thing. You're taking a physical sound or light and you're trying to digitise it and saying this is a faithful reproduction.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of times I've listened over, with some of the see, the brain's gone again now. It's done it. It's lost it. I came out with something absolutely amazing.
It was genius, honestly.
Not one of us leapt forward to help him as well.
No, I've lost it.
Let him.
I can't believe it.
About EVPs.
EVP, Elsie Tanner. The amount of EVP stuff that I've listened to, and it's like really, really is ambiguous. You'll get something on it which goes, and that's somebody there saying welcome to the jungle, and it's like somebody going but again it could be open to interpretation and what you actually hear for yourself. But come on, at least have it sort of be, at least we could listen to it and say, well, it's a possibility, it could be that or something else. But the amount of ones that I've listened to leading up to this show, I did have a listen to quite a few of them, and there's an awful lot which is absolute gubbins. I mean, me and your dad years ago, we listened to one which was done at Chingle Hall, and it was really odd. It was only when your dad played it backwards, it was actually a French voice on it, and that was a perfect bloody voice. But I say there's other ones which are going about, and it's nonsensical what you're expected to think that actually. Hey, so we've listened to this for a good number, and if you listen to it carefully, somebody says, "I am cleaning your windows," and it's just somebody going, or something. It's just a glitch on the tape.
And we'll absolutely unequivocally just discard anything that's like that.
No, it's waste of time.
If you can almost undeniably say that it sounds like a voice. Well, it's a disembodied voice is different from an EVP, as you know.
Yeah.
A disembodied voice you can actually audibly hear while you're out on an investigation, but it's not necessarily caught on any kind of recording medium. However, an EVP is caught on an electronic recording device. And a disembodied voice and an EVP can be one and the same, but again, they're not mutually exclusive.
EVPs, though, in fairness, 9 times out of 10, well, I'd say more, well, if you could say more than 9 times out of 10, they're purposely recorded.
Yeah.
People would go out and they go out of the way to
voices are either heard accidentally or captured when you're not expecting.
But EVP, they literally do sit down there, and it's like a tape recorder set up in a certain way to record something, or a digital recorder or something, but it is purposely done to do that.
And the frequency response for a lot of the electric condenser microphones that are in the digital recorders are far better at picking up frequencies that the human ear is capable of doing while you're at a location. And we do quite a lot of experimentation with instrumental transcommunication type devices to try and provoke some kind of communication, if there's any there, whether it be with generated phonemes from dictionary-based database electronic devices, to, like say, just a standard digital audio recorder trying to capture a disembodied voice or EVP. You know, we'll use all the famous ones that people probably well aware of. The Ovuluses, Spirit Boxes, there's Echo Vox, Paranormal Live Golf Box by Mark Cultus and Steve will tell you we're very, very kind to like furnish us with that kind of technology, and with some very interesting results. When you're using, for want of a better word, a device that's built around such a flawed method. I mean, and as we've discussed, digital information is easily corrupted and easily misconstrued by the very definition of how it's accumulated.
Easily edited as well.
The device itself will generate its own distortion, be it sound or light.
And any even solid state material used to do that was spurious sproggies and birdies and chirps because of the tune circuits within it. So you're always fighting that, that kind of thing. And when it's relevant to the location that you're at, it becomes a little bit more difficult to ignore. And I think we'd be the first to admit that it could be very easy to hear something and jump onto that and say, well, there you go, it said man, and there was allegedly a man here, so it's got to be saying, and it's like, come on, wake
patterns up. in the frames, isn't it?
Yeah, it's staring at clouds and seeing Nixon. And
you've seen that as well.
Oh, every day.
It's a funny one, isn't it?
It is a dangerous game, but it can yield very interesting results. We've been at locations where we've done spirit box sessions, and we've been after one thing, if you like, and we've been given something completely different. The responses that we've had have come in an Irish accent, and they've been related to a double murder that was committed nearby. And it's later, when we've researched a little bit more in depth the location, that we've seen we might have been up there looking for this,
but for something entirely different.
You wouldn't believe it, but it's given the two names of the people that were killed, and not only that, the voices that come across were Irish. And if you look at the history of all this, like the main suspects were Irish navvies that were working on a road nearby. So why is that? If people are talking about that on Key 103, it's doing very well. And especially seeing as how a lot of the devices are scanning at 250 milliseconds, and they're going from like 108 megahertz down to 78 megahertz. And it's staying on a radio frequency for a tenth of a second. And as radio broadcasters, I'm pretty sure you're well aware of how much you can say in a tenth of a second.
Yeah, you're not going to pick that up on it.
You're not going to be able to say, he was over there to be sure. No, you're not going to be getting that out in a tenth of a second. So I'm not trying to say that it's spirit voices. However, I am saying that it's unexplained and strange, and gives a little bit more ammunition to what's going on. And it can lead to going down a different route where your investigation's concerned, and getting benefits later on because you followed that line of inquiry, if that makes any sense. So instrumental transcommunication's a big part of what we do. I think it's close to a controlled study group, in so much as you can discard responses instantly provided you're disciplined. As Steve quite rightly said before, it can mumble at you and you can say, it's just described my best mate's dog, if you really want to. It's how disciplined you are as an investigator.
So you've got to be your own worst critic at the end of the day.
Any instrumentation, it's there as a tool, isn't it? And sometimes it can give you a faithful reproduction of what happened, and sometimes it can just make things worse.
Sometimes you get artifacts.
Sometimes I'll point a camera at a landscape, and the landscape will look completely awful through, just because it hasn't happened. The device, for whatever reason, hasn't recorded it properly, and that's what happens, isn't it?
And as a photographer, you've got the ability to employ like high dynamic range and start messing about.
To be honest, there's not a single decent shot I've ever taken that I haven't, because that's what you do. It's the nature of the art.
And when you
guys are working the other way around.
We remove
back to it.
We remove any extraneous bits that can embellish what's there, and strip it back to the crappy landscape, if you like. So that's reverse engineering.
Well, can I stop you there just for a short while?
Absolutely.
We're going to have a little musical break. Before we do though, I'd just like to say a big hi to Louise, to Steve Ibbs, and Christopher Sweeney, Anthony, Jim Graves, and a couple of others, and my dad, I'm sure he's still out there listening. Just all the people who sort of give us a quick shout out there on Facebook, just saying hi there to you all. This is TachyonRadio.com with my special guest tonight, Mr. Nigel Rudyard and Dave and Steve from Tameside Paranormal Researchers. Now, one of the things that I do tend to do is when people do come into the studio, I say, give us 3 songs and tell us something about why you picked the songs, and tonight is no different. I asked Dave if he would like to pick a song, 3 songs tonight, which he has done. So I'm going to ask him now to just pick which is the first song he'd like to play. And if he turns around now and says the Birdie song, I'm going to listen to this one.
Talk about digital distortion.
Yeah, I've got a lot more. Got a lot more taste than that, Steve.
Barry Manilow.
Barry Manilow. I'd like a Lynyrd Skynyrd.
I'm getting it.
And Simple Man.
I'm getting it.
You haven't? No. Nothing simple.
No, I've got Mungo Jerry and the Push Bass.
In the summertime, maybe. That's where I'm going.
Yeah, I can play that for you if you'd like, mate.
Thank you very much.
Any reason in particular why you picked this song?
I think because the words are... They've got a lot to say about staying true. You know, it's basically a mother sitting the sun down and saying, you know, no matter what, be true to yourself. Everything else is irrelevant, whether it be money, whether it be riches. It doesn't matter. As long as you stay simple and what you want is simple, you'll always succeed. And I think it's true for anybody in life. You know, don't set your goals too high. Just set them within your realms. But don't be scared of pushing yourself.
And do you know what was bound to succeed?
TachyonRadio, baby. A bird in all beak, a finch with a lisp.
This is TachyonRadio.com. This is TachyonRadio.com. That was the Blues Brothers with Sweet Home Chicago, and before that was another record which I've totally forgotten what it was. Guns N' Roses, November Rain. I was going to say Nuts and Noses then, but that's a little bit more ridiculous. Are you a little bit more your normal self now,
David?
David?
Human now, yeah.
He's feeling human, which is good. David's just had 16 chicken legs.
40.
Not including the ones of his own.
And not the chicken legs that were power in the car we was talking
Well, I was going to see if you wanted to go
They weren't cooked, they were raw, and chasing them around next door's garden.
with the cat. But we've just been discussing about doing a live broadcast in regards of a haunted house. When the weather starts, not the weather, when the nights start drawing in and it's dark and it's spooky, we're going to start to look into Dave and the people from Tameside Paranormal Researchers going live on a location, and we'll check in with them throughout the night and see what's going on. And if we go over to Dave and all you can hear he's like, ah, then we know something definitely is going on.
Then you know it's active.
Yeah,
something's happening.
So over to Dave with what we've been discussing.
Yeah, I'd like. I'm very much up for that. I'm sure everybody else would agree with that. They don't get a choice really. I'm very bossy. You might be coming across that.
He's a dictator, and I did add tater at the end of it.
Started off as a potato, and then I was just left with the dick. Got rid of the bone, took the dick. I think that would be a really fun thing to do, and hopefully people who might be listening might get a little bit of a taste as to what we're about, and just conduct an investigation at a location and via the modern technology of good old Skype.
Yeah, and not a piece of string between two tins.
Or baked bean tins. Reporting every half hour maybe, and let people know what's going on, and obviously because we've got the audio thing going with the Skype, maybe do a live spirit box session or a little bit of instrumental trance communication as we were discussing before, and let anybody who might be listening make their own mind up about what's going on, because they can hear it in real time.
Would this sound ridiculously cheesy to you, or would you think this may be a case of no, we can't do that because it's sort of like it sort of pulls in the wrong kind of people? But how about something like that, say on Halloween night as well?
As I might have already said, I don't think it matters if there's activity going on, it's going on, so I see no reason why not doing it.
It's just that most people sort of think of spooky stuff on Halloween night, and I think that would be great to sort of do like some kind of show based round that, where you could be playing like, I don't know, the Monster Mash, say at this end.
The Monster Mash.
And then, like, say, maybe...
Theme to Ghostbusters.
Yes.
Because we've had that. We turned up at a location, we was investigating and going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but that's Tachyon Radio, I'm starting to,
that's all.
understand.
Yeah. So it works.
Particular location.
Your tangents are our straight lines.
Surreal realism.
Yeah.
Exactly.
From sublime to the ridiculous.
Yeah.
And back.
We visited this location that prolifically. The locals had started to turn up, almost like knowing the site of the car.
With the vacuum cleaner on the back.
We turn up and the car doors are open and the car stereos are pumping out the theme to Ghostbusters, and of course some of the residents that didn't agree with it phoned the police, and then the police turned up and the police are saying, what are you doing, lads? Oh, we're paranormal investigators. And of course then they're really interested, so there's 3 Black Mariahs full of bobbies, loads of local people, and this haunted bridge has got about 44 people all taking pictures and all the rest of it, and we're not getting any evidence whatsoever, because obviously we've gone there to do a paranormal investigation and we've ended up hosting a nut job show, the Wackadoodle half hour in South Yorkshire. So I'm not really into that. I'm not really into that, Nodge. Not one bit. But I really would love to do that. I think Halloween's as good a night as any.
Well, last year I programmed a complete day of horror stories, little documentary segments in regards to the paranormal and stuff like that, and I did a live show actually at the night and spoke a little bit about spooky goings on and incorporated again horror stories into it. So yeah, I think that'd go down quite well if you're up for that.
Absolutely, and so is everybody else.
And
I'm saying
you're telling that now.
It might just be me because everybody else has left by the time it comes on to doing this.
I imagine this little video footage with the night vision thing of Dave going,
just me and me.
All those in favour?
Yeah, for those who believe in telekinesis, raised by hand.
I'm pretty sure everybody be up for that. They're all a good bunch of people, and it's about spreading the word, as we've already said. And
just going off on this, the tangents that we were talking about, you just mentioned there about the busy place where it becomes a bit of a nut job show. What do you do then in that situation? Because obviously you want to sort of gather clear.
We revel. We revel in all the attention. Yeah. That's what we do.
After you've reveled in all the attention,
kidding?
Presumably you try and calm it down a bit.
What we do is we leave.
Yeah.
We might hang around.
I was going to ask that if that was sometimes the best thing to do.
We would talk to them for a little while, because obviously they've turned up because it's notoriety. I see. We'll talk to them a little bit, and then say, we were just doing a little bit of it and one thing, but we'll be back again soon, and then we disappear. And obviously this is locations that anybody can go to.
You let the dust
historical locations, not residential.
Historical locations.
We don't invite the entire contents of the O2 Arena into somebody's house and say, here we go. Guess what we're going to do? We're going to do some table tipping. And Stella Artois helps a lot in that respect. We would leave and we wouldn't go back for a few months. There's other locations we go to and let the dust settle.
It's the sad thing about it all, isn't it? I mean, I think I honestly believe in the wake of stuff like Most Haunted and stuff like that, which is on TV, people sort of go, it's his video cameras with night vision on it, and they run around and scream and do stuff like that, and they don't see the serious side of it. They just see the entertainment value in it alone. That's why I was saying before about if we did something on Halloween night, would you be averse to doing that? Would it just seeming to be entertainment value, because TV does have and media in its most basic form. That's what it is, it's entertainment. We try to do it differently here on Tachyon because we do try to inform as well. But
absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think there shouldn't be really a dividing line between serious paranormal investigation being represented in the media and it being entertainment.
Yeah.
I think when it's more about winning over the ratings and getting more viewers, and to do that you've got to scream when a moth flies into
but that's the thing though. See, when it is looked at the media, then it is down to listeners. But I would prefer to say that you could still do it as entertainment as long as you don't turn it on its head so it becomes laughable, and that the people who are doing it become like a butt of a joke or something like that. Because the people who do it, like yourselves, they're not the butt of the joke. They are people who go out and do something which, as far as I'm concerned, is very serious. And that's how we treat it on here. That if you were to go around and say, we'd done this, that and the other. It's not a case of, are you sure you weren't in a pub because you saw spirits? You know, that type of shite, which it happens.
Of course
it's unfortunate. But like I said, we try to do this because, I mean, come on, some of the stories that we bloody cover on here and some of the topics that we do, you know, as far as we're concerned, this is serious shizzle to us.
I'm not just a guest, I'm a listener. You know, I'm aware of the type of stuff that...
Yeah, I know.
And absolutely. But I think...
I would never have asked you along if I was going to treat you like some kind of nonce. It's as simple as that.
I get that. I get that entirely. And one of the reasons why so readily agreed to doing it is because of that, and the fact that the representation that goes across to the listener is one of a serious length rather than just being nut jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, we're nut jobs.
I mean,
anyway, regardless of whether we
slightly discussed it before, that we can sit in here, we can talk about it in a serious tone, but we can be irreverent with it as well. We can have a bit of a laugh over it.
This is what the Americans call infotainment, isn't it? It's the fact that you can actually combine the genuine, you know, telling of a story and passing proper information without taking the mickey out.
Yeah, and that's how it should be.
You can
be entertaining and informative if you as good as we are.
There you go.
Speak for yourself. Hang on a minute, I said that wrong, didn't I?
The similarities between what is portrayed on TV and what actually goes on when you go out in the field stops at the word paranormal.
Yeah.
Because
the word itself becomes a block.
It becomes a caricature of itself.
It's too charged with many different things,
and too charged with cheese, for want of a better word. But it has delivered the subject to a lot more people than would have maybe paid attention to it. I mean, Steve might be able to get on this. I remember being considered a little bit zany, a little bit eccentric because of my wanting to be a paranormal investigator. Now it's expected in many ways. You know, everybody and his dog is a paranormal investigator. I'm going to regret saying this and probably shoot myself in the foot, but it's not quite like that. Everybody wants to do it because they've watched Most Haunted, they've watched Ghost Hunters, they're fans of Taps, they're fans of Zach Bagans.
But we've done stuff like that long before they were ever on telly.
That's the thing, isn't it? There's the rub. My friend, is when we consider, look at them nut jobs over there. You know, there were none of this equipment.
But unfortunately, that's very often a prophet in their own land. Is selling, you know, it's sad, but they're rarely celebrated. There's a guy called Terry Riley who was working with tape loops and things 20 years before Mike Oldfield. But Mike Oldfield took the technology and made tubular bells out of it. Unfortunately, sometimes what happens is the guys are the trailblazers aren't always the guys who take the credit.
We were in the wrong place at the wrong time and therefore became legends.
Many places were wrong.
It takes momentum, doesn't it, to get any form of you know, activity up and popularised, doesn't it?
Yeah. The thing is, though, it's like often, and we're working within the media at times, I've seen it that they sometimes go, oh, hang on, we can latch onto this, we can do stuff with it, and that's the first thing, we can do stuff with it. It's not like, well, it can be beneficial for the pair of us. It's like, let's see what we can get out of it. And as soon as you know your purpose has been used, it's like, see you later.
Flavour of the month.
And that's how a lot of these paranormal teams that want to make it big become victims of their own success. Because once they believe the hype that's instilled in them, then themselves have got to propagate to keep the viewing figures. They lose sight, they sell out, they lose sight of what they initially got into doing it for. And at the end of the day, the media outlets, the production companies that put forward these shows, that put forward these paranormal groups as being...
It becomes cheap television.
It becomes cheap television. It's mass-produced. Well, I want to be careful because it's radio. The microphones are always listening.
Well, you're not mentioning any names, it's allegedly.
No, I've not mentioned any names. I've got a big list, it's all written on my arm in biro. If I swear, you'll be safe.
But the thing is, when you see stuff like that, it really does become a formula. It's very formulaic in what they do. And it's the same old stuff. And they know, these TV companies, I'll tell you what, this group here, if we get them in, as long as they're on TV, they're not going to want big bucks to be shown. All they're going to want to say, oh yeah, this is the name of our group, come and visit us, this is what we do, we're brilliant, give us some more investigation. And that's it at the end of the day. It's cheap TV.
The other danger with packaging up any kind of science or scientific investigation, it's a bit like, it's analogous to something like archaeology where you've got things like time tomb. The problem is it makes it confusing. And of course you've not seen guys and girls with small brushes working for weeks and months on those sites before the programme comes out and in 20 minutes makes it look like, oh, they've just done Richard III skeleton out of the floor, because there's years and years of hard work that's gone in before, but you never see any of that. It packages it up as if it can just be done like...
Always worries me though, somebody says that they've just found a Richard III.
Yeah.
Yes. They always find him in the bog.
Always under a car park.
Found a Richard III in the bog. Is it? I know.
Yeah, so I'm just carrying on the list, so it's disabled. We are doing well.
It's not a discussion about the paranormal, it's a list of who you can insult.
Hello, sorry, I'll keep quiet for the rest of the show.
TachyonRadio. We do discriminate against everybody.
Well, I've seen many people that start out with the most, you know, for want of a better word, pure train of thought and intentions, in the paranormal, and there's a lot of them that are selling out. I sort of see them almost as by media, to become famous because of it as a vehicle to propagate success. And they start out as what seems to be kindred souls, and you sort of see an element of, you know.
They sell the souls to the devil, so
they do.
I've worked with a couple of radio stations over the time, and one of the first things, if I approach somebody and say, like, are you interested in doing a show, it's like, we're not going to have the mic taken out of here, are we? And I have to say, look, I'm not being funny, but, you know, I've done this, I have done research, I have been an investigator in that, so no, that isn't going to happen. I can honestly assure you that that isn't the case. And you build up a rapport with people there, because they know that it's like, oh, you want a buzz type thing, and it's a good way of doing it, because I think a lot of people wouldn't like to sit where you're sitting now if at the end of the day they think they're going to go home and then it's like, weren't they a pair of plums? And you get that quite a lot with people.
I feel that I've done my job as a paranormal investigator if I can disappoint somebody by telling them that what they experienced was plumbing. You know,
this is it though. You see, everybody's expectation when it comes to the media is like, you're going to go for it. Tell you what, it's like goes for it. It's a free-floating, free-form operation. You know, something like that. And it's like, well, actually, it's your microwave coming on and off and on by itself. You know, it's something so simple like your garage door needs sort of like some oil on it. That's making all the noises. You're looking at it objectively. You're looking for all the explanations what should be there. It's only when it gets to that tiny 1 or 2% of the stuff that you can't sort of explain away so easily. But it actually is.
Borrowing the analogy from what I was talking about before, near-death experiences, 9/10 of near-death experiences can be explained by psychological or physiological evidence.
Absolutely.
It's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% that would sort of qualify as transcendental, where there's no direct physical evidence, and yet the person has experienced something that they patently couldn't have experienced physically.
It's like UFOs, they say the last it's 5% of them can't be explained, but I always try to turn that on the head and say, out of that 5%, 4% can, because I would put that down to military aircraft. It's that tiny 1% that you can't explain. You go, this may need further investigation because I haven't a bloody clue what this is.
The problem is, it doesn't make for a good media pipeline every week saying, this week the boys have been out and they've because
found,
they haven't.
We were out and found
This week Steve concludes it was actually his sister.
I'm not mentioning the name of the programme, right, but there was one that I was watching the other week on YouTube, and they were going on that they put these cameras out in the desert and it's like, yes, we're going to prove at Area 51 things happen. And they'd set these cameras up for a couple of days, and it comes back and says, we found 2 interesting things. I thought, hang on, Area 51, a couple of days, and you found 2 things. Okay. So they put them up. First thing that comes up, he said, this is an interesting anomalous thing in the sky. Could this be an alien aircraft that's over there? And I looked at it and went, it's a cloud. And he says, and look at this, these lights which were scooting across the sky. And I went, they're headlights from cars. So he's showing you the picture of the place today, and he went, yes, well, when we actually investigated it, this is a ridge and there's cars going across at night and we think they're car headlamps.
That's where the belief system thing comes in, where people go out and they're already predisposed to see something of an explanation rather than staying neutral.
I remember many years ago heading up, there must have been about 20 of us went up to where the Peel Tower is up in Bury. And
Skywatch.
Yeah, it was a Skywatch. And we were there with the old curry soup and stuff like that.
Oh yes.
And a lot of people there know it's Bury, right? It's not Area 51. It's not.
It's as near as you're going to get from the north.
Yeah. Well, there's a secret base somewhere near Wolverhampton, and that's about as close as you're going to get to it. And yet there was people up there, right? in between scoffing the butties and eating the curry soup, a light would come over, which was quite obviously on the flight path coming to Manchester Airport. They go, "Oh, is this some kind of alien craft?"
No,
it's a Lufthansa coming from Germany to Manchester Airport. Is it really? Hang on. In them days you could listen to all sorts on the scanners and stuff like that. But you get them coming over.
The golden days.
I mean, if you had watched it, like nowadays with your smartphones, you could go, "Oh yeah, let's have a look at this flight radar thing. Yeah, it's right over us now. This is a flight AF2731 coming from Area 51 in the United States."
Which is why the categorising anomalies was so important back in the day, because things that we considered to be like lits, lights in the sky, were very low down the list, because it can be practically
everyone keeps bleating out, don't they, about like the Hynek story. I mean, that was so simplistic, and then you went for the valet, well, like I say, with the lits, and I mean that was a little bit further down, able to prioritise things a lot better, because basically with Hynek it was like, that's a bit far away, that's a bit nearer.
People to label experiences they had more than anything, more than actual scientific categorisation, was a way for people to label particular experiences that they've had. I mean, there's grey areas between the different classifications, I think, as well, that you seem to see a lot of, and I think Valet's was a little more usable.
It's a bit more scientific, especially for prioritisation. But like the Hynek one, people sort of latched onto that, and now it's like, yes, there's C3K4, 5, 6, 7, and it's like, I think it's up to about 15 now, which is something like witnessing a small alien riding the back of a gerbil past you while you're eating a hot dog out on your veranda.
Now, that's a CE16, isn't it?
I knew it was close.
CE16 classic categorisation, but there's lots of them going around.
Any sort of investigative process, it's a bit like sifting for gold, isn't it?
It is.
Amateurs are happy to see shiny rocks in the sea.
I was going to say it's a bit like sifting for gold, because you always find some nugget.
Well, that's what I'm
which way you say? Is that a nugget of information?
The amateur will be happy because they're shaking something. The further up the scale you go, somebody will find some fool's gold and be happy with it. But I guess what you guys are trying to do is shake everything out as hard as you can, so that what you're left with is actually the real thing.
I've had lots of paranormal experiences, Nodge. I've had a lot that I can't explain, and it's difficult for me to sit down and say that any of it is because of a ghost, any of it is because of a spirit. Some of the experiences that I've had when I've seen objects, I remember when my first son was just due to be born, and we went for a walk, me and the girlfriend at the time, up onto the reservoirs near where I live, and obviously I've got interest, as everybody in mine. I'm a little bit geeky. I like military aircraft and various other bits and bats. I'm obviously into ufology, so I like to think I've got a little bit of a decent background in identification when it comes to aircraft and what a satellite might look like and planets, and a little bit about astronomy and that kind of thing. And there was very little to no cloud cover. I remember seeing just above the hills, and it looked, because I've got to use that terminology, it seemed that it was just a couple of 1,000 feet above the ground, and it was a pattern that flashed in the sky. If you imagine that you've done a dot to dot of the letter W, but you started from your right to your left, as in, flash, then flash down at the bottom, flash like that, very quickly, and then it would start again and keep doing that, and it would flash in sequence, in like the points of a letter W kind of thing, as it traversed the sky from right to left also. And we first caught sight of this, and it was like, it's a very strange Lufthansa, that one. And it's a very strange satellite as well, and it stopped. It just disappeared from nowhere. Couldn't see any kind of solid object behind it, even though there was the lights, which was strange, and there was no sound or anything with it. And of course I looked at the then girlfriend as if to say, did you see that? And she was like staring agog. I hope that's a word. I've introduced it. If it is
agog.
Agog. It's a caveman.
You said it.
Yeah.
It's a caveman. Agog.
Agog.
The Adventures of Agog. And we looked back, and it appeared at the place where it originally started from again, and done exactly the same thing. It just repeated what it had done previously. And then a little bit of cloud come in, and we completely lost sight of it. And I've racked tax my brain to try and come up with an explanation to myself about what that could be, what could be responsible for that. And I just keep falling flat. But it doesn't mean that I say I've seen a flying saucer. And as cliched as this might be, and obviously it is to a lot of people that are into the subject, as a UFO isn't a flying saucer, ne'er the twain shall meet. It's descriptive of nothing other than something you don't know what it is, basically.
It's an object that flies that you don't know what it is.
You don't know what it is. It's really that simple. It doesn't mean it's a Romulan like warbird which just decloaks. I know I've just burst the bubble for you there.
Damn Spock.
It's also about, we understand flight because of the machines that we have that fly. It's also about your perception of flight because we understand flight in the
I was actually just going to mention, remember a few years back, I think it was about 1997 over in Arizona, the Phoenix Lights.
Yeah, the Phoenix Lights.
Yeah, which was deemed to be triangular shapes, and even though that they said it was flares, which is
and then another one was it was 15 small aircraft flying in formation and all that
like you do. But have you noticed over the past couple of weeks, like NASA, they released that about the little spaceship they've got to send to Mars, which is like triangular shaped.
It just happens to be the same.
Yeah, so it just seems a little bit odd that, or perhaps it's just me.
But again, I mean, our perception of flight is very preconditioned by the machines that we have, our helicopters, balloons, satellites and planes, whereas of course the flights that you see, the flight patterns you see described in sightings are completely different, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, you've also got
speed, not just the speeds, but also the shapes of the flight,
the shape of the Earth. The shape of the Earth theory kicks in as well here, because to the viewer, their perception of how the world is formed is as parallax errors. As something goes out
10 miles in that direction, the curvature of the Earth gets in the way,
and you're seeing things disappear. So it's either that's
I'll go to a Bob Dylan concert where
and things totally disappear there, like time.
Or fly through Liverpool.
It's at the curvature of the Earth gets in the way.
And as they disappear, it's either because they're falling off the world, or because the Earth is round. Now, it depends upon your interpretation of it. And while people are seeing things that are in the sky and that appear to be traversing the sky, they might not be flying.
They might not be flying. Relative. You can stand at one viewpoint and another, and we see two different things.
Is it a crossover of dimension? Is it a time rift? Is it this? Is it that? What the UFO classifications is, like I said before, is just to categorise people's having an event, not to describe the actual science and physics of what actually occurred. And that's the cop-out when it comes to categorisation and the high-net classification or the Valet classification. It's the same thing. It's a way of pigeonholing people that have had an experience into groups rather than explaining the actual physicality of the event.
Of course, as we all know, I mean, there are plenty of very, very highly qualified witnesses, like military pilots and so on, that they're not
the same people who we entrust that lie to us on a constant day-to-day basis.
That's the sad thing, though, isn't it? That most pilots who do see these things won't report them.
It gets in the way, but the thing is, these guys are trained. They know what an aircraft is because they're trained to look for them, and yet they see weird stuff and then they have to deny it.
And there's a highly trained one who's I'm sure you'll know him quite well. Is absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. And it's right. Isn't it?
It's true.
And a lot of them have come forward. I mean, you got Wendell Stevens, obviously, who was like the prime investigator when it come to Billy Mayer and people like that.
Ruppel as well.
Of course you have. And then, of course, we've got. I mean, depending upon you've got to take on board what they say. People like Bob Dean and people like that have come forward from the military that have claimed to have access to information that we've not when they've worked at places like SHAPE or at NORAD and things like that, and they've been privy to information that we mere mortals will never
not allowed to see.
But because we've got the internet, it's all over the place. Haven't we? So
the problem is, though, that 9 times out of 10 these guys want to carry on with their careers. While they're in service, they're not going to say anything.
Yeah, but that's most pilots will say that if they do see something, they refuse, because the minute they land, they're interrogated, and so.
Well, they're interrogated, but also it hangs over them then, so they're not going to say anything for the sake of the.
Well, it happened to him, didn't it? The Japanese pilot who saw that massive object. Was it over? I can't remember. Was it over the Philippines?
It was a big golden one.
Oh yeah,
it's a big golden thing.
And they sort of said, sorry mate, you've not seen nothing for taking your pilot's licence away.
You've seen nothing, cock-a-jumpy.
There's film of that though, isn't there?
No, there's them Brazilian ones, one with the fighter pilots. There's the dots, which now apparently.
16s with this and the Johnson ones, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're taking into account again. I mean, okay, Haven was saying a lot of people, especially seeing it ties into like this so-called recent Kodak debacle, which has come about, and also the one previously with the Ray Sansili case. He actually has a show which is, I think it's 3 or 4 nights a week over in Brazil. Over here, we get a UFO report, and it was in the paper like, Bert Smith saw this UFO. Was he drinking on the night?
Yeah.
Over there, they actually have a TV program. Have you seen this? And the stuff, what's floating in the sky over there? It's like, what the hell?
There's a big area, isn't there?
What amazes me is the obviously there's a great deal of stuff that comes out regarding what they call them ovnis, don't they? In Mexico, they're ovnis for them. And Jaime Maussan's propagated a lot of that, and he's had all sorts of people on the show, the elders, the Inbrit elders, lots of people that are allegedly at the front of ufology and UFO law. And on a personal level, people, the everyday man, we're expected to believe the testimony of these professional people, which are the same people who, if you have a UFO sighting, you can't go to them and report it because they're not equipped to deal with it. So, a policeman can have a UFO sighting, and we have to take that as gospel. I mean, we don't have to take that as gospel, but we're sort of expected of us to take that as being, well, this is a trained professional, so he must know what he's talking about. If you have a sighting, he's the wrong person to go to because he doesn't want anything to do with it. He's not equipped to deal with it. So it just seems a little bit of a twisted kind of mentality about
there's somebody who used to work for the military who's quite well known now in, shall we say, entertainment circles, and he's got books out and stuff like that. But before he was at the UFO Bureau in London, there was a young lady there, and when we used to send in the UFO reports, we'd phone up the UFO desk. It was a very nice young lady, and we'd ask if anything had been reported in the area at the time of such and such a sighting, and it'd be a case of, no, we haven't seen anything. Okay, well, we're going to send this report in for you. And 9 times out of 10 she might say, there's nothing seen on that now, but I don't know if you've got a report in regards of there's something seen previously in another area at such and such a time. Thank you, we'll look into it. Great she was. This other guy takes over. All it was give me the information, give me the information, give me the... We never got anything back, and now he got loads of books.
I remember a particular case not so long ago over, I can't remember the name of it, the Loch Stramford Loch in Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
And it had been a sighting of a bright orange ball that hovered above the centre of the lake, a few hundred feet above it, and there'd been a few witnesses. This particular one that got in contact with us had seen it with some high-powered binoculars mounted onto a tripod from his bedroom window, and he'd seen many like shrimp trawlers and stuff like that go out regularly, and the lights that are on the masts and things of these ships, and said that the following day the lake was full of divers, and the Coast Guard and everything was all over there. There was helicopters buzzing about all over the lake. So of course this is going to raise my interest. It goes without saying, and I got absolutely no truck with certain people that have got TV deals and book deals. I remember communicating with them, and they've worked for the Ministry of Defence. These well-to-do, they know the stuff. They know the stuff. They know the stuff when it comes to collecting paychecks. And absolutely no information was forthcoming apart from the good old-fashioned chestnut of, have you tried phoning the police? I thought, well, no, I haven't thought of that. No, I was only born this morning, so that wasn't my first port of call. However, I contacted the Garda, and I contacted the Royal Ulster Constabulary, the Coast Guard, and the I forget the name of the airport now, but it's in the report. Should you ever want to see it, Steve? You might like a perusal of that.
Yes, please.
I'll bring that for you.
Yeah, please.
And the amount of information that I got from the Meteorological Society, loads of it forthcoming.
Yeah.
Loads of it. And absolutely nothing from Whitehall, absolutely nothing from London.
It's not what Whitehall.
But it's the same with Rendlesham Forest, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely nothing.
People approach the MOD and it's like nothing happened. So they approach the American,
really,
it's like,
it's an 80s band, isn't it?
MOD. Information in those circles is like a sponge. They take it in.
Yeah, it was very enlightening to see how quickly they wanted to pass it on to other people.
Yeah.
I mean, they contacted all sorts, the relative, for Shanwick radar and everything, because it's getting out over that way anyway. It's going out over the Atlantic, as you know yourself. So see if there was any radar returns, but absolutely nothing from England. Nothing from good old Blighty.
Right, should we take a break for a couple of minutes then?
Yeah, let's take a break.
Okay, I'm just going to indulge myself now. I'm going to play a little teaser thing that I did in regards of UFOs. This is obviously for up-and-coming stuff, because I'm just going to play it anyway. Okay, this is TachyonRadio.com. Don't forget, if you still want to talk about any of your sightings or any experiences that we had in regards to paranormal, you can do that by getting us on 074 636 39815 on your mobile and send us a text. Or you can also get through to us through our website at TachyonRadio.com and Skype us. Have a good word with us at Tachyon Studio, and that's got a capital T in it. UFOs, military aircraft, alien spaceships, delusions, or a license to print money. I set out to a local UFO conference to seek out the truth from both experts and witnesses alike.
We estimate that it has a diameter of over 550 kilometers and a mass roughly 1/4 the size of our moon. What the hell is it?
Independence Day. Absolutely ginormous spaceships coming to Earth. But is it feasible? Bob Dean thinks so.
Spaceships 2,000 miles long. I have photographs taken by Apollo 13 of alien ships 5 miles long. Now those were taken by our own astronauts, and you won't get a one of them to admit who snapped the shutter on that camera, and there it is. NASA photograph of a 5-mile long artificial spaceship. Now, and that's small.
We interrupt this program to give you a bulletin just received. A large object traveling at supersonic speed is headed over the North Atlantic.
The thing is, with UFO stories, it doesn't just stop at a light in the sky. Sometimes they come down to Earth. In the past, I've had my run-ins with Nick Pope, ex-man from the Ministry of Defence and now UFO expert. I collared him outside in the car park. Luckily, I've lost some weight and some hair, enough for him not to know it's me. And allow me a quick question as to if aliens have landed here in England.
Just a minute, ladies and gentlemen, I think something is happening.
Brindlesham is Britain's best-known UFO incident. Arguably, it's one of the world's most important UFO cases. What makes it so important is that everything that makes a UFO case good happened here all at once. Firstly, you had an incident which happened over a series of different nights, so it's not just a one-off. Secondly, the witnesses, most of them were military, so you've got trained observers. Thirdly, you've got trace evidence, and this is absolutely critical. The UFO landed, markings were found in the forest floor, where this thing had come down on a tripod-like device. And critically, when the base personnel checked this area with a Geiger counter, the radiation readings were assessed by the Defence Intelligence staff at the Ministry of Defence as being significantly higher than background.
People of Earth, attention. This is a voice speaking to you from thousands of miles beyond your planet.
Some people only see lights in the sky. This lady's seen much more than that. Alice Redfern is an actual UFO witness.
I heard this noise, just like a giant cauldron of water being poured onto a red-hot fire, 1,000 times louder. I ran out through the side entrance, and to my amazement, there, suspended on the top of the roof of this old farm, was this object that I can only describe as a huge Mexican hat. It covered the roof, so in circumference it must have been about 60 feet. It was enormous. The people in the spacecraft were just looking out. They were very beautiful. They had long golden hair, and they just looked at us. Their eyes, the expression in their eyes were full of compassion. And then all of a sudden I felt the tension leaving me, and I felt movement, and I turned round, and when I looked again, it was gone.
I came here to give you these facts. But if you threaten to extend your violence,
this Earth of yours will be reduced to a burned-out cinder.
Finally, before Nick Pope twigged who I was and used his connections to set the Men in Black on me, I asked Nick what would be the most valid UFO story that would maybe make people sit up and take notice.
The best UFO cases are obviously the ones where you've got more than just someone's story, where you've got some sort of corroborative evidence that can be looked at in a proper scientific way. Now that corroboration, it might be a photo or a video, it could be radar, or it could be trace evidence from a landing.
So, what have I learnt today? Is it that there are a bunch of loons running about with many weird and wacky theories about aliens and government secrecy? Or is it that there are many free thinkers who think outside of the box? The big question, though, is, are they right? I don't have the answer. Only time will tell.
I bring you a warning. Every one of you listening to my voice, tell the world. Tell this to everybody wherever they are. Watch the skies, everywhere. Keep looking. Keep watching the skies.
I think that curry which Dave had before didn't quite agree with him.
I don't normally eat that kind of thing, I do apologise.
That was just a little ditty that I did a while back for a radio production course, and it was a little teasy thing for UFOs, but it is just something, well, it is a subject that's close to my heart, always has been since I was a wee sprog, and although I may not be active in the field of investigation anymore, I do sort of keep my nose to the grindstone, and I still do a lot of research into it, so that's probably why I've been waffling too much tonight on UFOs. Anyway, over to David and Steve.
Okay.
That's your Sunday name.
That's the Sunday name. He didn't get his Sunday name.
Stephen.
There we go.
Stephen.
And it is,
Stephanie.
It is Sunday. Daphne and Stephanie from TPR. From TPR. I sound like dance characters now. I would like to briefly discuss the validity of people training in certain aspects rather than just jumping in to paranormal investigation. Not because I think there's a hierarchy. I mean, there's a de facto hierarchy that's just there because of experience.
Yeah, that's the defining thing. It's experience.
It's just experience, and you sort of. I'm the de facto team leader because I founded the group and because I've done a lot of investigations.
Yeah.
However, when we're out on an investigation, I consider anybody who's there to be just as valid a pair of eyes and a pair of hands as I am, as anybody else is. There's no kind of pecking order. However, there is certain techniques that you need to employ to come about a professional kind of approach to the investigation. And there's no two ways about that. And we did briefly discuss before about the shows like Most Haunted and everything have bred a plethora of these, born again paranormal investigators, and all they need, if you've got a flashlight and the truth, that's all you need. The flashlight and the truth, and out you go into a field.
Which, funny enough, have you seen the teaser for the new X-Files?
Oh my word!
No, just listen to this. It's what you were saying there. She says, "What is it? Something about Scully? I know in here is the truth." She says, "I've seen the truth. Now I want answers," and that is what it boils down to.
Well, you see, this is a good one, isn't it? Because the truth is relative, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's depending upon what questions you're asking.
Exactly.
Because, as I said,
and what you want to hear as well.
Exactly what you're willing to hear, because you can cherry pick the choice parts that might fit in with your expectations,
or the narrative that you put around,
or the narrative that you've put around.
It's like film reviews, isn't it? But at the bottom it says this film is absolutely brilliant, but actually it said this film is brilliantly crap. But somebody's going to watch it.
So the original X-Files. Let's take the strap line that was the original X-Files was "I want to believe." Well, anybody that's ever done any kind of analysis or investigative work knows that "I want to believe" is the worst strap line and the worst mission statement you can have, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, what you can do. 8 hours of an investigation, and you can place 3 digital audio recorders, so there's 24 hours of analysis before you start. You can have 4 team members with cameras taking DSC images, and they'll each take 500 pictures, maybe more, depending. So you could be looking at 1,500 to 2,000 pictures to go through on top of your 24 hours of audio. And then you've got full spectrum video, you've got ultraviolet video, infrared video, and standard, if you like, visible light video. That might be taken on a multiple of 5, 6, 7, 8 cameras. And if you employ a DVR CCTV system with night vision, where you've got 4 to 8 separate views, rooms covered, you've got a week's worth of work to go through from just an 8-hour investigation.
And that's if you work 25 hours a day.
That's if you work 25 hours a day, 8 days a week.
But presumably at no point are you guys saying I want to leave, you're saying I want to know.
No, I've got to get some sleep.
I want to believe there's an end to it all.
Yeah, but you're looking for the truth rather than believing a particular sort of set of assumptions, aren't you?
I would like to think that is the case. However, I think it would be churlish to try and get on some kind of moral high horse and say that there isn't an element of doing it for myself. You know, you've got to take your faith and your belief out of it.
But you need a motivation, presumably, to get up at 1 in the morning.
Of course you do, yeah.
I wouldn't get up.
Where's my motivation?
Somebody rang me at 1 in the morning, I'm afraid I put the phone down.
Things that go bump in the night.
Exactly, yeah. The phone receiver in my case,
So it would be, I wouldn't be so conceited to say that it's but I'm somebody who's paving the way.
You do sound like you've got a scientific methodology about the way you approach it, dispassionately and accurately.
When we have an anomaly that actually occurs and we're subject to being a witness to it ourselves, I doubt the validity of our experience, because that in itself is not enough to produce any kind of evidence. Vibes and feelings are great, but we're there to collect evidence that then correlated to some kind of processed product, physical proof that will give an answer to why we went out there to do the investigation in the first place. And however I feel on an investigation, my personal experiences are a tiny part of a myriad of fractals that make a paranormal investigation. So it's not as clear cut and as morally high-handed as being wanting to be like a trailblazer in finding out what goes on in the paranormal world. There's always going to be that element of wanting to do it for yourself, because that's the driving force.
Yeah, but that's only human, isn't it? You need motivation to answer the phone at 1 in the morning and go out and see traumatised families and things. I would have thought, but
it doesn't pay. It doesn't pay for itself.
No.
I remember the equipment at one time for poltergeist detection, apart from of course witness testimony and good old 35mm and whatever other format, even medium format, whatever type of photography you chose to employ, would be salt spread around the floor to collect footprints, would be sources of water to detect ground vibrations. There was none of this electrical equipment. There was no EMF meters. There was no geophones, motion sensors, and all that kind of thing. And it all led to this where we're at now. It gave all the same answers, that we don't know what the hell's going on. We still try to find answers. So the equipment in itself doesn't validate its own use.
To be honest, some of the equipment that you see around isn't always in advance, because I know as a photographer 35mm is still superior to any digital camera.
And it's more believable when it comes to producing images.
It leaves a physical, indelible image of the photons that have hit the surface, whereas with a digital device you've got all sorts of internal charging going on, things getting cancelled out, so your eyes are still...
You're left to the ambiguity of metadata on images and whether or not you believe that, as opposed to
what they call artefacts.
Physical evidence, if you like, on emulsions and on silver halide, depending upon what medium you're using. So 35mm is the way forward, baby.
Well, a lot of photographers still think so. 5-4 plate as well.
Absolutely.
Although you guys couldn't carry a plate camera.
We carry lots of equipment around, and the funny thing is it always seems to be the same stuff. There seems to be favourites, and I become aware of that. That is it whatever's the fashion at the time? Whether it's
like a Bond film where you never see the thing
what's
again.
Q come up with this week? So we're going to use.
But you never see it in the next film, do you?
A rocket propelled EMF meter. We're using all sorts of stuff, like static detectors and boxes that have an antenna that generate their own electromagnetic field that can be like interrupted and cause an alarm to go off. It'll work along the same principle as REM pods.
Like an interferometer.
It's like a fiddler. A fiddle detector. Stop messing about with my antenna. It's like a fiddle detector. And the REM pods are the one that the famous ones like Ghost Adventures will propagate. We've had bits of gear sent up by a constructor from Mitcham in Surrey, who constructs electrical devices for detection. Also got the more famous bits of equipment as well, the ones that everybody will know about, and that's in many ways to see how well that works, and not believing the hype. You know, when you watch a TV show and they're walking around with these K2 meters, and you think, okay. That's the must-have new device, and it's all old hat. I mean, if you want to detect a telephone mast 400 miles away, K2 meter's the thing for the job, you know. And it is flashing away all investigation. And I'm watching videos on this on YouTube, and you're like, they're getting excited about this. No power to their elbow, at least they're out there trying to do it. And with a wry smile. And it's flashing away because O2's trying to log on to the satellite, and they've got all sorts of stuff, and they're chasing their own cell phones around, their own mobile phones around. So the equipment itself is is there to catch paranormal investigators and not paranormal evidence for the most part, I think. He says I
think most of the time they're probably just practicing with it before doing anything, making sure it works.
Absolutely. And one of the best bits of equipment recently is the Tri-Field Natural EM meter, because it detects DC electric fields as opposed to AC, which is man-made. So if there's any kind of anomalous readings on them, either picking up fluctuations in the Earth's geomagnetic field or something with a DC electrical charge, rather than man-made devices like power lines and mobile phones, sweeps and things like that. And the human body gives off a trace DC electrical field anyway, and this thing will pick up a human being moving through a wall, so that can be a very interesting bit of equipment. And the use of an EMF meter to find man-made devices that are giving out anomalous readings that might interfere with people's brainwave patterns. It's not to find ghosts or spirits like a lot of people might think, and a lot of paranormal teams will go about with these devices, swinging them around. I mean, for more often than not, the single-axis meters. So you've got to take a reading to be able to judge it in any way if it's anomalous. It's got to be vertical, horizontal, and they're all over the place. You can get random EMF fields all over the place. That's a bit like
using the Geiger counter. You've got to be in the right spot to begin with.
Absolutely.
Take all your base readings before you can do anything anyway, so you've got something to go along with.
I mean, when we go about with EMF meters and we get EMF spikes, for the most part, I can only speak for myself here, but for the most part I discard, I'd say 99% of them as being pockets of electromagnetic energy. I mean, especially when it comes to EMF fields, they're radiated from all over the place by telephone masts. Travel at 90-degree right angles to one another as they're doing it, and then they're ricocheting and refracting off hills all over the place if they're of a VHF frequency or UHF frequency. So they're being picked up by these massively broad-banded EMF meters that have no selectivity. They're as wide as a barn door when it comes to receiving it.
The problem is the geology, because the north of Britain is granitious, and that means you've got certain radioactivities coming off the base.
Off the very mineral
the basement.
You have to look at it the other way though. I mean, when you look at like stealth aircraft, the way they build them so that it deflects and reflects away like radar sweeps and stuff. Same thing for EMF. All you need is that kind of pattern, shape or whatever, and it's going to bounce back to you and you're going to pick it up.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's not to say that these high levels of EMF activity that we're getting is not responsible for anything. They're not discarded as being just not worthy of taking note, because if they're of a high level, say above 2.5 milligauss, is always worth paying attention to. That's quite a high level, if that it's like having your head stuck next to a computer screen all day long, or a mobile phone next to your head and it's just blasting away constantly. It'll give you a brain tumour. So it does have an effect on the human brain. There's no doubt about that, and that can it's a massive part of the human experience, and coupled with the psychology, then a big part of the paranormal experiences that people are either down to disruptive brainwave patterns due to unexpected anomalous fields in the Earth's topography, coupled with an element of psychology, the way people react when they're put in certain environments, and the way that people can be made to react when with other groups of people within certain parameters and environments.
Well, the more we learn about physics, the more we learn that fields are actually where it's at. Gravitational, strong, weak, interactive, the very things that we're made up of that hold our bodies together, the strong, the weak, and the nuclear forces that keep us together as.
That's a solid object.
Well, we're not solid objects.
We're a bunch of moving atoms.
No, atoms are 99.99% empty space. So we are the products of field. It's only the strong and the interactive nuclear forces that actually keep us together.
And that field.
So we are the products of fields.
Is disrupted very easily by stronger exterior fields within the environment that we're dependent upon to live within. And I don't think people take that on board. And however, and that's not to say that people don't have genuine experiences. If there's a big part
in your everyday life, you don't think about these things.
It doesn't occur to you. If
you don't look up at the sky most of the time because you're so busy, aren't you? We do, but
if there's people are actually seeing ghosts, that's worthy of an investigation. End of. If people are imagining that they're seeing ghosts and it's psychological, that's worth investigating. End of. If people have been convinced that what they've seen is a ghost, that's worth investigating. End of.
Because of their perception.
Because of perception, So it's regardless of whatever, it's always worth looking into. And there is always the element that you can't explain, and then it just becomes unexplainable, not necessarily. I mean, I would say a lot of people have had paranormal experiences, but I would question how many people have seen a ghost. I would question how many people have actually had spiritual interaction. But however, I do believe that there's certain people that are more liable to have it due to their openness. I think more people are susceptible to it. I think people can wish it upon themselves as well, for the most part, and have an experience
because
that's beyond.
They're open to it.
But I do think a lot of spiritualists and mediums come under flack, and there is a lot of people out there that are just, charlatans. And then there's a lot of people out there that have some
can pick up.
But don't you find that, as in all other aspects of the real world, the quiet ones, the ones that don't shout and blow their own horns, tend to be the genuine ones? It's separating the two groups out, isn't it?
When I come across somebody who's saying, I have this gift that was given to be my God or by some ulterior powerful being, and I'm going to charge you 50 quid for half an hour for that luxury, then he always doubts.
Since we're mentioning no names, I won't say it, but I know somebody who claims to pick up the vibrations in the universe. I'm not sure they're rubbish.
If I had such a gift and it was given to me freely, I would share it thusly.
Exactly.
I think that would be a condition of the gift. Sure.
You didn't pay for it. You don't give it. You don't charge for it.
You make your money on it. But all power to the railboy if that's what they want to do. And it's always good to go into a spiritualist church. And is there anybody here with the name, the letter beginning with A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J?
Is there John? I'm getting the John. No, Bob.
There's always a
Jim. Tony. Yeah, that's.
Never forget years ago on one of the radio shows that used to be on late night on one of the local stations, and they had this guy on there. And this woman phones up and he said, "Okay, then I'm getting a number on your door. Is it a 2, 3?" He said, "8." Yeah, I was coming to that. And is it your husband? No, it's my son. Yeah, your husband's got the same name as your son. No, he's not. No, I think he has. He's got the same second name.
There's some people out there that can absolutely blow your socks off with it, and they're really worth paying attention to. But I think we know very little about ourselves, our own mind, and the power of the human mind.
We actually know more about the solar system than we know about the mapping of the brain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though we've got all sorts of we've got all sorts of instruments. We know a lot about how it works physically, but we don't know how the brain actually stores information. We know that people with Alzheimer's will move blocks of information
around
autonomically without ever knowing. So and the other thing I've got an interest in earth science is we know more about the far reaches of the universe than we do know about 10 miles under our feet.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we were talking about I was interested to hear you guys talking about geomagnetism.
Oh, it's a massive part of it.
The thing is, at the heart of the planet, you've got actually a big ball of liquid, 2,000 miles wide, that is churning all sorts of electronic and magnetic fields.
There's an episode of Mystery Science Theory. The Mole People. Watch The Mole People.
With Alfred from Batman in it.
I don't think you guys are...
John Agar.
Load. You're a load.
God, is it that bad?
John Agar. I mean, you say we don't know loads about the human brain, and we do. You're absolutely right. We know more about the human brain, but we still can't explain Millwall fans.
No.
You know, that is what
we're going to go to another club, but I think we should be I actually lived near Millwall, actually. Yes. Do you know what? The thing in London it wasn't Millwall that had the bad reputation. Do you know who it was?
Go on.
It was Charlton and Crystal Palace fans, because apparently that rivalry is quite bitter down south. And I was told this, I thought this was rubbish. I'd go past the Den, it looks a bad place. Every day I was driving on the train past it. And then one night, because I lived in Crystal Palace, and Charlton coming down, and they're absolutely right. There were 25 white Marais outside Crystal Palace.
Good God.
I do have to say...
I couldn't believe it.
I do have to say that was a really cheap... latch on to Millwall fans there. If there's any Millwall fans listening, absolute bunch of darlings.
we all like it. It's just Steve Yarwood. Steve Yarwood.
Phone me.
All your complaints to Tachyon Radio at Steve
Yarwood.
Just go to our email, complaints@TachyonRadio.com.
Coming back to our point, I was fascinated to hear you talking about field, because field theory is another thing I'm interested in, and now they're looking at things like the search for the sort of the God particle is on. I mean they've built the super collider and all that stuff. The more they're learning, the less that particles are playing a role. The particles are just the messengers.
Yeah.
And the more they're learning, actually, we are the products of fields.
Yeah.
So I was interested to...
It's the spaces in between.
Yeah, well, atoms are 99.9%.
And Roger Waters...
None of you are sat on a chair at the moment. You're actually floating about, a billionth of a micron above it, because it's the electromechanical interaction between the atoms in your body and the atoms in the chair that are actually repelling each other. That's you and the chair.
So how does toilet paper work?
I don't know. I knew you were going to ask.
How does use toilet paper work? That's the question you got to ask.
Is that what they call skid marks for the interaction?
I think the second law of thermodynamics is
Hadron skid mark collector in Switzerland. Skid marks.
Yeah, he's on Tachyon Radio as well.
Yeah. Skid mark.
Yeah.
He should be a character.
We haven't got one.
Jingle, is he there? Is it called Skid?
Yeah.
I was Skid. But in going back to what I say when it comes to spiritualism, I think when you're out in the field and you're actively conducting investigations, there's people that do have a religious bent that conduct investigations, and their opinion and their input is just as valid as anybody else's, of course. And the spirituality side of it is maintaining a state of mind where, when you're in an environment and you're under any kind of duress or stress yourself, it's important to maintain a healthy balance. So any kind of preparation before you do an investigation is good. Any kind of leaning towards some kind of spiritual belief is good in a protective kind of sense. Applying that to your diagnosis or prognosis of any of the investigative elements that present themselves of evidence is where people fall down, where they jump instantly onto that bandwagon and explain their that anomaly, or explain that particular event away in the realms of their belief system. Should be left to religion and not paranormal investigation.
Yeah, definitely.
You have to be a collector. You are the medium. You are the emulsion on the film. You're there just to collect the evidence. And if there's spiritualists and mediums and clairvoyants that help you on that journey, and they collect relative information, then it's all part of the same goal, in my opinion.
So it comes back to your original point about the evidence being a very sort of a broad group of phenomena.
The evidence should speak for itself. It doesn't need your input. You're just there to get it.
Yeah.
You know, you shouldn't have to add to it. Sure.
No, you shouldn't have to. It should be there itself. You start doing that, then it's leads down the
slope, presumably.
Yes,
it's a slippery slope.
It becomes dodgy now.
Again.
Definitely. When you start presenting your own evidence, it's no longer the original evidence you went to investigate.
You are just there as a tool. I'm sure there's a lot of people that agree with that. I'm a tool. I'm meant to be a tool.
Perhaps not taking in that consideration. Okay, well, we're going to take another one of your records now, Dave. So you've got a couple more left. Which one would you like to choose?
I like Joe Bonamassa.
Any particular reason?
A different shade of blue, because this guy is probably true to the blues for any white guy that you can get of this generation, I would say, and he's funky.
Well, if he's funky, it's good enough for me. This is TachyonRadio.com with Joe Bonamassa and Different Shades of Blue. This is TachyonRadio.com with a very, very bluesy Joe Bonamassa and Different Shades of Blue. Don't forget, if you've got any experiences you'd like to share, because at the moment everybody's been a bit selfish with the experiences, you can Skype us at Tachyon Studio, capital T in the Tachyon, and you can contact us in a variety of different ways, and you can check all that out on our webpage, which is at TachyonRadio.com. Back to the guys.
Yeah, back to us.
Or not.
Or not. Yeah, back to us. I'd just like to say that, and should anybody want to watch any of the videos that we've got on YouTube, I'm going to use this opportunity to do a bit of plugging it.
Go for it.
Because that's what I'm like. Then if you just put Tameside Paranormal Researchers in the search engine, in the bar above on YouTube, guys, then you'll find out little bits and bats. And like I said before, it's a vehicle to give an insight into what we get up to when we go out and about, rather than a vehicle to gain notoriety.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I've undone any good work that I've done in the group by what I've said tonight anyway, so it's a bit too late for that. TPR's dead and buried because of me tonight.
Open mouth insert 4.
So look it up on YouTube, and there's little bits and bats that are on there.
I'll stick some links for YouTube as well on our webpage for it if you want. Put them direct through for you.
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. Checks in the post.
Oh, there you go. 50 quid. It was well spent.
I've got another one of my sort of stupid, ignorant questions, and it sort of, again, it relates back to what we were talking about before about near-death experiences. Most people...
You're not letting that go, are you?
No, I'm not, because it's an obsession, and I think there's a link.
Absolutely.
The near-death experiencing, most people genuinely report a very positive thing, that there's a feeling of serenity and a feeling of security and warmth, of being surrounded by goodness, whereas I get the impression that very often with the things that you guys do, there's not hostility, but very often there's an anger there with whatever you may be encountering, or sometimes there's a chaotic element. Have you ever encountered something where it's been an overwhelmingly positive thing, or does it tend very much to be a story of
what it is on the night, really?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can get a very, very intensive feeling on some parts, which is not a very nice feeling. There's been team members what's been sick with it, really sick, physically sick, headaches, feeling of being touched on the night and some places you go are very, very calm, a different atmosphere, but
so there are sort of positive energies out there as well as negative energies, do you think?
Yeah, you've got two kinds. It just depends on the night, what kind. I mean, there's one particular location what we've been loads of times. One night it can be really calm, the next it can be intensive.
And there's no sort of logic behind it. It just differs on a random basis.
But that's the good thing about historical locations. I mean, I use that term loosely, but a lot of paranormal groups, if they can't get access to a residential investigation or to an indoor property, they'll stay in. They'll do nothing. So they might do 2 or 3 or 4 investigations a year. If there's alleged activity anywhere, we're there, baby, because it's all experience, and it's all part of the learning process, because you've got to be willing to accept that every individual investigation, even if it's the same location, is going to present itself with different anomalies and a different set of circumstances. So it's a completely different event in its own right. And I think going out as much as you can and putting yourself in different locations with different sensations and different vibes and atmosphere gives you a larger palette with which to draw experience from when it comes to analysis when you do get these residential investigations. And while there might be a totally different set of circumstances that are responsible for the anomalies and that are responsible for the occurrences, your approach towards being in the firing line for it, especially when you're in some very strange residential properties. I mean, these people live in these places, obviously, and they stay there 24/7 and have these experiences. And you've got their word for it that such and such a thing might be happening, and then it does. And no amount of preparation gets you ready for that. I mean, it's you can be trained to shoot a man, you can be trained to march all day long, but when you're put in a battlefield, you're not used to putting your hand in a big pile of sludge that used to be your best mate's face. That side of it isn't. You learn that when you're out there doing it. Of course, paranormal investigation is nothing like going through that, obviously. But there's still that similarity of it. You only really get that kind of thing by doing it.
Between theory and practice.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not to lessen the importance of people that do the research, because not everybody can get out into the field, and research is a massive part of it, if not the biggest part of it. But being out there and experiencing it, the human side of it needs to be experienced, to be taken on board, because it's human experience that labels it as paranormal. It's human beings that are affected by the paranormal. So the human element is the element within it. Man. There you go. I've just ostracised everybody in the paranormal community tonight.
You're doing well.
Yeah, the amount of 50 quiz that I'm going to have to send out in the post.
Exactly. Well, you can always photocopy it.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't.
I don't do that.
No.
So, from what you've told me, there are places that you get a genuine vibe from that have a definite atmosphere about them, and but sometimes that atmosphere changes from day to day because of all the things we've discussed. Are there any places that you guys have been where you would say it was overwhelmingly sort of, it was a positive vibe and somewhere that people felt drawn to? Because you hear about places like Avebury and all those places, and I've been to Glastonbury, the tour in Glastonbury, and there's a definite feeling of sort of serenity. Are there places like that where you've been where you would feel that there was a sort of positive?
Well, it wasn't until Kanye West went there, but
we don't take Glastonbury Festival reached a new low with that.
There's also another one that we did it was in the style. I'm not giving any location away at the moment because it's an ongoing thing, but there's a very, very sad feeling at that place. Really overwhelmed and sad. And some of the team members have had different feelings on it, haven't they?
Like a feeling of something, just a sense of loss, or
a few of the team members have had good feelings, and
it's a very
every time that I've been there,
it might have been somewhere that was once happy, but
It's when we researched the actual location. And psychology even now really is still in its infancy as a science and as a medical establishment. And it was around from the good old days. It was around from the 1840s and right the way up until the 1980s, and then shut down, but only so much as to move 200 yards further away. So it's still open, technically speaking. But all the things that walk hand in hand with psychology and the establishment's approach to mental illness and mental health care and the stigma that surrounds that journey,
I know quite a bit about.
It's all there. The diabetes, the insulin injections, the water bath treatments, the lobotomies, and all that went on in this building. The electric shock treatment. It's all there, and the building. You see, you can drive down the road to some of these locations, and when you spot them half a mile away in the distance, the feeling can hit you then.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is one of them that as soon as you see it, it's like,
smash you in the face.
This is going to be going to be a bit of a grueler. This one,
Interesting.
And I sometimes wonder if you blindfold somebody and say nothing about the location that you're going to, and just dump them there. And
then
they
pick up on it.
Exactly. Yeah. Would you take the blindfold off and they go, oh, I'm gonna, you know, or would they'd have no preconception of what it's supposed to be like or expectations of it, so they'd be quite happy going, oh, I don't know what it is. It could be anything. I feel great. But for the most part, when we've gone to locations where we've took people who don't know anything about the location, that doesn't happen. They don't go there and feel great. They might know nothing about the place, but they go there and they know. You know, they feel bad. They get these feelings, and it's just something not right here. You know, and even to the extent of where we because you've got to, of course, put into the equation there that they know they're going to a location because they're coming on a paranormal investigation. However, we've also been to locations where we've took people, we're not going on investigations, we're just going on a mooch about, because we do scouting missions, we go out looking for locations to keep our hand in while we're not doing residentials or business properties. And might take somebody who's not into it, you know, he's somebody who's not active in the paranormal world and just coming along for the ride. They go, I don't like it here, you know, I get a bad feeling here, I don't like it. It's funny you should mention that, actually. And then that's when you can unleash all the history and go, well, this has happened here, that's happened there. And then inevitably, more often than not, they just want to get out of there. You know, they don't like it there.
I think we've all experienced, haven't we? You've been somewhere and just instinctively you know that it's not a good place.
There's one particular place over in Lickleborough. It's near a lake, but that is a beautiful place. There's some woods up there.
That's not a nice place, that.
Not nice.
It's I've been in the dark a lot and been out in the dark a lot, not just because of paranormal investigation, but night fishing, and when I was younger, pharmacies, hunting, and being out and, you know, in the dark and in the environment. The dark's nothing. It's not about the lack of sight. It's definitely the location, the environment. There's something about that place. It's I don't know what it is, but it's bad juju. And people have been get touched there, don't they?
I've been touched at that.
Really?
Place. Really been touched at that place.
He was very happy about that, because it's the first time anybody had laid a finger on him in years. So, needless to say, we keep going back there.
But the first time that we ever went to that place,
that must be very disorientating. It must be quite disturbing.
Pulled away from that thingy because I didn't feel that good with it. And then went back to it.
It was a particularly bad one. It's there's a video of that on the YouTube channel anyway. It's where a couple of the guys actually go down there, and it's again, like I said, as like de facto team leader, it's sort of left to a judgment call whether to keep putting people through that. So it's easy just to leave the location and get them out of there, because then personal experience and all the rest of it's starting to overwhelm, and remaining grey and neutral to collect evidence is out of the window, so you're wasting your time. You may as well leave. And in my experience, the sensation of being touched feels like an electrical jolt.
No, that's possibly what's happening, isn't it? It's some sort of energy, isn't it? It's not matter, is it?
No, but it feels like you're being touched, and that's it. It's
like a phantom limb type thing, isn't it?
Well, that energy and matter, we now know, the more we learn, the more that we know they're interchangeable anyway. That's what the Higgs boson thing's all about.
Well, it's all about energy, isn't it?
It starts off as energy and is filtered into matter.
It's all about energy.
The two are interchangeable.
We consume energy so that we have energy, we beget energy to become energy, and so does everything in the universe. And that's it. It's one big energy thing. And it's how the manipulation of the energy, whether it be from the environment or from energies that have passed over, if you like, into a different realm of energy, can interact with the energy that we're experiencing now, you know.
We know that the whole observable universe around us, 99.9999% of it is full of stuff that we don't understand, and actually the physical manifestation of all of us and stars and galaxies is a very small part of the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
The particular location was that particular night we got away from there because I was totally out of it once it happened. It was freaky.
Do you feel then, Steve, that people who are interested in this sort of research are more susceptible or more interested in those things? I shouldn't actually. It's a good job we're on radio.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Good job we're on telly.
Just from your own perspective.
From my own perspective, people are interested, more interested in the side of it. a lot of people sit in the armchairs and start sceptics.
Yeah. No, but what I was getting at is, do you feel that the people who are drawn to your sort of research have got more heightened sensitivities anyway as people?
There's a lot more open-minded, I think, to actually look at stuff, where some people they go down that route of yes it is, or the other side of no it isn't, whereas the likes of what we do, we have to sort of, it's like just travelling down the road, innit, and then you take everything in and make your mind up as you go along.
Most people don't bother looking at anything in the world.
No.
There's a wonderful line in Joe versus Volcano, the movie, where one of the guys says, well actually, people go through life in a daze and they don't look at anything, they don't realise what's going on around them. It's very true.
Yeah, looking without seeing.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, I think the vast majority of people that are interested in the subject will have an experience in some way, shape or form, and I don't think it's because something's happened. I think it's because they've wanted something to happen.
Interesting.
As Steve said, you can get 20 people on top of an hill, can't you, or stare at the sky.
Oh, yeah.
And they see a light in the sky.
Oh, yeah.
18 of them are seeing a UFO, an alien battle cruiser.
There's a scene of Meg.
Yeah.
And then when you say, no, it's not an aircraft, so you're involved in the conspiracy of covering it up, are you? No.
Illuminati confirmed.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't wear an apron. Well, not me off days.
You're one of the lizard people, anyway.
I know.
I thought I'd seen you at the builder. That going on.
He's on the Council of 300 then,
I used to be a member of the Secret Six, but I didn't know who the other bloody five were.
It was that secretive. You didn't know you were in it yourself.
No. It's got a letter through saying you had a member.
That's the problem with secret cells, isn't it? Yeah.
I do think it's not going to be easily answered, this field of pseudoscience, by the establishment are not willing to commit to it, or at least not openly willing to commit to it in the eyes of the public. So paranormal investigators at a grassroots level, in sort of like a semi-professional, amateur-professional kind of way, really are the forerunners in that arena.
You're the thin blue line.
Sort of, in a way, people of our ilk, because we're more readily available. There isn't sort of like a set of constraints dictated by a scientific community.
No, it's not like dialing 999.
You don't have to work within them parameters, or you lose your job.
Yes.
It doesn't go against the theories of the people that went before you, despite the fact that history writes its own history and it changes to accommodate modern views. And you don't have that within pseudoscience because it's a lot more flexible.
But it all alludes then to the old saying, doesn't it? The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Absolutely.
It's written by the winners, isn't it? It's history as a viewpoint. It's not a chronicle. Most histories are a narrative put together by the present day.
How many people listening to this feel absolutely ripped off?
There you go.
What were they all expecting? What was you expecting, people?
Give us a break, we'll do our best.
It's a ghost for you.
It is difficult to convey just with words what actually goes on, because you find yourself in the position of doing exactly what everybody's done before you, which is just word of mouth. You've got to accept our word for it. That what we're saying is what goes on. I mean, unless you actually go out there and do it, and then you might do something different. So we're lying anyway straight away, because if you do something different, what we do is wrong. We're doing something different than you are.
Being unconventional.
Not being unconventional, completely. So it's a very strange one. It's hard to explain to people who don't do it or have no grounding in it.
Well, the material is, isn't it? It's easy to explain a chair or a brick, because it's an object that you can describe and physically observe, whereas with something that is elusive, it's hard to define, isn't it?
As a paranormal investigator, I would say that the brick is only a brick because somebody's called it a brick. If it had been called a sausage, it would be a sausage.
Absolutely.
And it's the same with
wouldn't do a lot for your teeth, though, would it?
It wouldn't go well on in a full English, would it?
I've eaten in that restaurant, by the way. No, it's semantics of a big.
Of course it is. You got to question the very thing to be true, or what establishment it says is true. Because if you take on board what the establishment says as being true, nobody would go out in the field and try and find answers.
Well, a good sort of analogy again is the definition of life itself. A bacteria can lie in the snow at the Arctic for a million years and not be active, and then suddenly the sun shines on it or whatever, and it starts to multiply again.
Sounds like an Englishman, that.
It's a bit like me watching daytime telly, but it's true, isn't it? The definitions of life. And
it's a shame you say that, because Richard Madeley is your biggest fan. Did you know that?
Who's that?
Richard Madeley.
Richard Madeley. The Richard Madeley trolley dash.
Oh,
hey.
That's skid mark again.
No, I think the complaints this time should be directed to Nigel.
He's boss man, he allowed me to say it.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to fire up your final record of the evening.
Okay.
Are you going to introduce it and tell us why?
It's the Foo Fighters. It's Get Outside. And I've had a lot of respect for Dave Grohl as a musician for a long time. I think he interacts with his fans on a very, very human kind of level. And I just think it's a really rocking tune. It's got a good bass groove, and as a muso, it does it for me.
Okay, rock and roll. This is TachyonRadio.com. This is Foo Fighters and Outside. This is TachyonRadio.com, and that was the Foo Fighters with Outside. That was Dave's final choice for the evening. We're rapidly running down now. We've got about 20 minutes left before the show finishes for tonight, and then we hand back over to our schedule. So back over to the lads for the final 20 minutes. Whatever you wish to discuss, young sir.
I'd like to discuss some kind of way forward with this show on Sam Hain night.
Yeah.
I'm just discuss doing that.
Didn't he work at Las Vegas?
I think he did, didn't he?
Sammy Night.
I think you made a good point there. That people, for the most part, do believe that there's certain nights and things that need to be in place for paranormal activity to occur. And I'm using, of course, what we discussed before as a catalyst to bring this conversation about. And of course, one of them is Halloween. Because that's a night when you'll see all and sundry. There's loads of them then, they're all over the place then. Just the sheer amount of torches that are flashing around in the dark is fantastic. You've gone from these costumes. It's unbelievable. I haven't seen the amount of ghosts, and they're all carrying little buckets full of sweets.
Yeah, I was going to say they're all 4 years old.
And it's fantastic, but they're out there. And for the most part, we tend to shy away from. I do, because there is that cheese element, as you said before, Steve. However, for the Tachyon Radio crew, our services are limitless. Please count us in.
As long as you get a box of sweets.
As long as we get a box of sweets, so we can walk around in the ghost costume. We'll do it via Skype. We'll talk to the listeners.
How's it going there, Dave? I've just got 2 refresher bars.
We've just robbed 2 small children of the sweets.
Operation Trick or Treat.
Go!
And I think it'll be good if a few people tune in and maybe some kind of interaction. With them,
we can give quite a bit of promotion beforehand and lead up to that. It'd be nice to get other members of the Tameside Paranormal start reporting in on the night.
It's only me and Steve. Nobody else is allowed to talk. We've got a thing in place like the Bee Gees here. The eldest is the only one that's allowed to speak. Is it?
3 octaves above
Barry.
3 octaves above
everybody else. You got to go out wearing tight pants. That's not necessarily true, actually. We only go out on Saturday night.
So tight you can say your religion.
It's a tragedy. All the puns are flying thick and fast now.
Oh dear.
It'd be great if people could actually some kind of interaction with us, and maybe because they've heard little bits, we discussed a little bit about instrumental transcommunication and conducting spirit box sessions. If they themselves might have some ideas for questions they might want us to ask while we're there, and of course we'll do that live via Skype so they can hear them questions being asked. To put their kind of spin on it, because if they don't get a chance to go out, they might have their own kind of approach they would think they would like to employ.
Let's see how it works.
Absolutely, and we'd do that. We'll be their pawns. I've always wanted to work in the pawn industry, so we'll be their pawns.
The tight pants.
The tight pants. Don't get rid of that.
We'll definitely look at that. I'll start work on that, actually arranging some stuff up and getting promotions done for it and that. But as I say tonight, don't ever. I say to that many people when people come on, don't take it personally if nobody actually sort of like Skypes in.
Absolutely not.
Because it's simply a lot of people. I do it myself.
I realise that people are scared.
No, if you listen to the radio during the day, how often do you feel like saying, "Oh, I need to text in this place"?
Yeah, but radio during the day is very boring. It's not like Tachyon.
No, we kick ass.
You know what I mean? It's that far in front, it meets yourself coming back.
We've met ourselves so many times, it's unbelievable. I kid you not, with a Doppler shift. Or maybe not.
Maybe not. But if at least one person, I'll pay.
More like red shift.
I'll pay somebody to phone.
Yeah,
I'll have a word with the wife.
Ring in now.
She's probably listening then.
Yeah, now you will be in trouble.
Yeah, I better behave myself, yeah.
I'll tell you what, seeing we've approached quite a lot of stuff tonight, how about last 15 minutes do you want to talk about Mystery Science Theatre? Because I know it's one of your subjects close to your heart.
Yeah, that would be great.
And I know it sort of takes it away from paranormal and stuff like that, but I just think
it gives Steve a break from talking. He hasn't shut up on that, has he?
Just start to wind down the evening a little bit more. It's entirely up to you. Take it whichever way you want to go.
I've got absolutely no problem with that. Mystery Science Theatre 3000 is a show that's very close to my heart, and it's been responsible for. I better not say because the wife might be listening, but it's been responsible for a lot of good times, and I can pinpoint moments in my life over the last 20 years by chunks of Mystery Science Theatre sessions. You know, like a certain episode will make me reminisce about a certain part of my life. So it's been a big part of it. A big shout out to Joel. I might be listening, but if you're out there,
if you're there, Mr. Robinson,
I'm thinking of you there.
Robinson.
Thinking of you there, baby. Well, it was Joe Robinson in the show. Actually, technically speaking, Steve.
He certainly was a class act, and there are rumours knocking about him doing something perhaps on Netflix or something like that. I don't know how it would go, but I would love to see it back again. And for those who don't know about it, basically he's showing old B movies and a fellow with two robots just taking the mick out of it. It's stuff that we do ourselves when we watch films. You literally sit down, you'll take a mick out of something that is said or something that you see on the screen, except these guys have got the balls to go out and do it on the big screen.
But it's very often the alternative witty scripts they put behind the movies are better than the original movies, aren't they?
Prince of Space.
It turns something that wasn't entertaining into something that is entertaining.
They totally saved the movies.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
You really need to go out and watch Mystery Science Theatre's Prince of Space. It is possibly one of the highs in entertainment. That and Puma Man.
I have to concur with that. There is, however, a couple of episodes I would throw in there as well. I've got to be honest. I think Invasion of the Neptune is close behind. And the Final Sacrifice.
Yes.
The Final Sacrifice is a good
Operation 007.
Even starring Mr. Connery's brother. It's a very good one.
Complete with M and Miss Moneypenny, who keeps going up and hiding his beard, going, "You know what? You look remarkably like." No, you don't. No, you don't.
And Mystery Science Theatre is actually responsible for me being married.
That's which I explained to Nodge earlier.
And because the often sort of puts untruths out there, I didn't believe until you told me.
No, if you told me, I wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And I went through it.
A bit like a plot in one of his plays or something. Yeah.
There's of course a present company accepted. I think Mystery Science Theatre 3000, for the most parts, it's a cult show. As far as Brits are concerned,
it didn't really get the airplay over here, did it?
Certainly not the airplay it deserved.
Fleetingly on Sky, Sci-Fi Channel. Sci-Fi Channel bought it up and went yay, and then completely cancelled it. No, they just cancelled it really quickly. It was Saturday night. It's about 10 o'clock.
I mean, when you think about it, it's a programme for the real fans of science fiction. It's not just somebody that watched Star Wars. It's somebody that actually the old show.
You'd really want to sit down and watch it.
Michael Rennie, all the old Michael Rennie films and all that.
But I think as the show itself evolves and you see it branches away from the science fiction side of it, which is why it differed between the different networks in the States.
Yeah.
It's because it was supposed to be billed as a science fiction kind of programme, tongue-in-cheek.
They did a lot of horror stuff, didn't they?
And they started to do horrors and stuff like I forget the name of the actor now, but in Riding with Death. And
Ben Murphy from Gemini Man, a very mellow Ben Murphy.
Ben Murphy,
Yeah.
which is hardly science fiction, but
Well, it was a TV sci-fi program, the Gemini Man, where he's made himself invisible by having a really snazzy digital watch.
right.
The problem was, though, Ben Murphy being mellow Ben Murphy, it's just like you can't really catch up with the action with him. Cause
however, that didn't carry on when it come to shows like Diabolic.
No. No.
Do you know what I mean?
And The Master.
And The Master,
Fugitive Alien 1 and 2.
Fugitive Alien, he tried to kill me with a fork. It'll ring in my ears for eternity, you know.
Oh, it's just absolutely sheer class.
And Mitchell, you know,
that and Targo. I've got to, Manos Hands of Fate, telling you it's got to be a real low-end entertainment. And I do know when they filmed that they actually had difficulties doing that.
Do you know the one I was watching the other night, Moon 02?
Yes.
Now, I remember the James Olsen.
God!
Yeah. Now, of course, the MSC that they put the new spin over it.
That's got Warren Mitchell.
Warren Mitchell's in it. James Olsen.
Bernard Breslau.
He's the big
playing one of the heavies. So, I mean, I've got memories of that.
And Maria Schell from Space 1983.
Catherine Schell, who was, lovely. But I've got memories of... I've got memories of that as a child.
Memories?
Being You've got memories of Catherine Schell?
Those two, being a proper science fiction film, of course it's rubbish.
Yeah.
But what they've done is they've reinvented it, and actually they've reinvigorated these films. So, in a way, you're talking about the director before who was a bit peed off.
Yeah.
But actually, they should be very grateful because what they've done is they've given these films a new lease.
Opened it to a new audience.
Absolutely. I mean, they were must have been hated by
Sandy Frank.
Sandy Frank was always open. I mean, he was particularly assassinated in the Time of the Apes and shows like that.
And rightly so. Let's be honest.
For the Time of the Apes.
That was terrible. But it's. You do the evolution of it starts changing. I've seen discussions where people are like, is it Joel who's the main guy?
I was going to say, I'm only getting into that because I've not seen that many.
For me, you lose the robots. The invention of the robots is Joel. The host segments where it comes to the invention exchanges are all because of Joel, which he was doing as a stand-up before they were doing before they were doing Mystery Science Theatre. You lose that. Essence and creativity when Joel goes,
because it's not his idea, it's somebody else's idea,
and Mike does a great job of it.
He does it in a different way.
Episodes, the same esteem as TV's Frank.
It's kind of like any classic series, though. It's a bit like, I like Red Dwarf, and the fact of the matter is that Red Dwarf, the most successful series were 4 and 5 and 6.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Most of the
best stories were
they were, but most of there's some purists that actually like Red Dwarf 1 and 2 because it was the most purely science fiction of the lot. But,
absolutely.
My favourite series was 4 and 5 because
and Holly was there because it was a holographical computer as opposed to looking like a girl Holly.
Exactly.
Because they attribute Holly because it's a girl's name and it's not about that.
No,
it's the same Holly.
Absolutely.
And it's things do change.
All right.
The thing is, though, I say with Mike, it was he approached it in a different way. They had sort of a lot more of sing-songy type segments, but that was probably because Kevin Murphy.
I would say, as somebody I don't know it as well as you guys, it's funny anyway, isn't it?
It is absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, of course it is.
It's not a witch, does it?
I honestly believe that if you can't sit down and at least be giggling within the first 20 minutes, there's something wrong with you.
You haven't got a pulse.
Yeah.
I have.
No, you have. If you can't sit down and watch Mystery Science Theatre and laugh.
Yeah.
I think the thing is, most science fiction fans have got an affection for things even when they're rubbish, and the fact that they've been given a new lease of life by taking the mickey of it is a good thing.
I like the film crew and I like cinematic Titanic too. As I see in the riff tracks I'm an avid Star Wars fan. And it's sacrilege for anybody to take the mickey out of Star Wars. Don't go there. But as soon as I saw riff tracks,
have you seen the Avengers?
It's absolutely fantastic. And it's a good vehicle for it.
So tell us the story then of how this comedy science fiction vehicle actually changed your life.
Well, in a couple of different ways, really. Mainly just getting into it right when I did. We're going through a particularly black period in my life, so it was a lifeline to be able to chill out and watch that at the night time.
Things to me. about it.
And it's because it's true. It's you know, I'm not just flippantly saying that.
No. Steve said similar things to me about it.
A particular black part of my life where, you know, it's we all have them. And
we do, yeah.
It's sometimes you need that little bit of a bright outlook, and Mystery Science Theatre were there.
Yeah.
And of course you get this advent of social networking, and the biggest thing beyond the birth of my children, all nutcases as you can imagine, was meeting my wife because of Mystery Science Theatre. There was a Mystery Science Theatre fan page on Facebook. Of course I subscribed to it. I think I was the only Brit there. And the topic of conversation at the time was who has appeared in more than one episode, which major A-class actor, if you like, has appeared in an episode that's been on Mystery Science Theatre. And one of them was Raoul Julie, who was you know, Gomez, the Addams Family, and ended up being on the episode Overdrawn at the Memory Bank. So of course I was straight in, boom, with that. It's a bit of Mystery Science Theatre trivia, and you know, I don't get out much. So I don't get out much and I live alone. So I bang that in straight away. And this
fanboy screen thing then actually worked for you.
It did, yeah. And this social networking thing got cocked off. And this
that's the end of that one.
Yeah. Zeus, complete dead weight. Mystery Science Theatre Club. And of course she responded with a funny comment, and I did likewise, and we got talking, and here we are now. I'm married to a nutcase from New York.
How long ago was that, by the way?
We got married in January the 17th, 2014.
Oh, fantastic.
It does feel like 50 years, yeah.
I think
I'm joking.
Can I just say,
every day's brand new, darling. Every day's brand new.
You actually volunteered that answer without the provocation of the question.
Talking about a woman who not only has she got a similar sense of humour because she's into Mystery Science Theatre, but she's give up everything that she had in the States to come and live with me and to start a life with me over here in England. So, you know, that's such a big, generous and selfless thing for somebody to do, that I have to cover what goes on as joking, because I can't approach it in a straight sense of mind and validate that I'm worth that. So I'm forever thankful for that.
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah. That's just got me off the hook, hasn't it?
It certainly has. You can only cross your fingers now.
The trick is the brownie points don't work like that.
No, it doesn't work like that. All my clothes will be in bin bags in the garden when we get
yeah. You have to put up with him talking to you all night then.
Yeah, you can't shut up, see?
Take the notice.
Well, that's it, I'm afraid. That's wraps it up for tonight here on TachyonRadio.com. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've certainly enjoyed having the lads down. It's been a bundle of laughs, I must say.
I've absolutely loved it, and you know, if you ever want us to come back, I'm sure we'll.
Most certainly would do.
As well.
Nice one.
We'll say something sensible next time.
That's a bit boring.
I'm going to invite us back.
So all I can do is say a big thanks to Nodge, to Dave and to Steve for coming down tonight and imparting their wisdom in each way that they have done. And thank you, and thanks for listening, and take care, good night, and speak to you soon. We're going to leave you with this tonight. It's White Snake, and we wish you well. Good night, God bless.